Jenny Braze was a 34-year-old woman who lived in Palm Bay, Florida, with her husband, Arthur. She was a teacher of the local high school, where she was loved by her students and fellow teachers. Jenny had a bachelor's degree in English literature from the University of Florida. She was passionate about reading and always found time to help others improve their reading skills. Jenny was especially known for organizing book clubs and poetry readings in the community. She loved books like To Kill a Mockingbird and Pride and Prejudice, and often recommended them to her friends and students. Jenny was also very athletic. She loved running and participated in local marathons. She was often seen jogging in the mornings around Palm Bay's Turkey Creek Sanctuary. She had even completed the Disney World Marathon twice and was training for another marathon when she died. Her love for running kept her fit and healthy, and she encouraged others to join her in her fitness journey. Jenny's family included her husband, Arthur Braze, her parents, Thomas and Karen Mason, from Iowa, and her younger sister, Emily. She was close to her family and often spent weekends with them, having picnics at the local parks or attending church services. Her friends described her as kind-hearted and always willing to lend a helping hand. Jenny was known for her warm smile and friendly nature. She had a way of making everyone feel special and important. In the days before her death, Jenny was busy with her usual activities. She was planning the next book club meeting and was excited about discussing the latest book they had chosen. Her Nights Under the Maid's Moon by the late Joyce Lehman, which was a popular read in 2004. She was also looking forward to participating in the upcoming Palm Bay Fun Run, a local charity event. Jenny had just bought new running shoes from the nearby Sports Authority and was eager to try them out. Jenny's life seemed perfect on the outside, but she had secrets that not many knew about. Jenny dreamed of writing her own book one day and often talked about it with her friends. She wanted to share her love for literature and hoped her book would inspire others. Unfortunately, Jenny's life was cut short before she could fulfill her dreams. On February 18, 2004, Palm Bay, Florida, was covered in a light fog, and the temperature was cool and comfortable. At around 7:30 a.m., Carol Stevens, a 92-year-old retiree and neighbor of Jenny Braze, was walking her dog, Melania Stratanowicz, in Turkey Creek Sanctuary, a popular local park. Carol enjoyed her morning walks and always listened to her favorite radio station, 104.1 FM, which was playing some Backstreet Boys that morning. As Carol walked along the path, she noticed something unusual near a cluster of trees. Melania began to bark and pull on his leash, leading Carol closer to the area. As she got closer, she saw what looked like a person lying on the ground. Her heart raced as she approached the figure and realized it was Jenny Braze. Jenny was lying on her back, her eyes blown out by gunshots, blood surrounding her head. Carol was in shock. She quickly took out her cell phone, a Nokia 3310, and dialed 911, her hands trembling. The operator instructed her to stay on the line and wait for the police and paramedics to arrive. Carol kept glancing at Jenny, unable to believe what she was seeing. Within minutes, the sound of sirens filled the air as the police and paramedics arrived. Officers quickly secured the area, and paramedics confirmed that Jenny was dead. They noticed 2 gunshot wounds, 1 in each eye, and a message written in blood beside her, "I am a cheater." The scene was both shocking and heartbreaking. As the police worked, news of the murder quickly spread through the neighborhood. Local TV stations like WES2 News and WKNG News 6 began covering the story, and reporters gathered near the park, eager for any information they could get. The discovery of Jenny Braze's body shocked the quiet community of Palm Bay. People who knew Jenny were devastated, unable to comprehend how such a kind and beloved person could meet such a violent end. The police vowed to bring her killer to justice, but the journey to uncover the truth was just beginning. The Palm Bay police arrived swiftly at the scene where Jenny Braze's body was found. It was a foggy morning on February 18, 2004, and the atmosphere was tense. Detectives Carol Harrison and Brielle Honley led the investigation. Detective Harrison, a tall man with graying hair, was known for his sharp attention to detail and calm demeanor. Detective Honley, a younger officer with a knack for empathy, was determined and methodical. The crime scene was disturbing. Jenny's body lay on the damp ground of Turkey Creek Sanctuary, a local park. Blood surrounded her head, and the chilling message, "I am a cheater," was written in her blood next to her. She had been shot twice, once in each eye. At such a close range, her eye sockets were blown out, making the scene even more horrifying. As the detectives began their work, the park was quickly cordoned off with yellow police tape. Forensic experts arrived with their equipment, setting up tents and floodlights to illuminate the area. They carefully photographed the scene, ensuring they captured every detail. They collected bullet casings and took samples of the blood message for analysis. The detectives looked for any other clues around the body. They noticed the ground was slightly disturbed, suggesting a struggle. Detective Harrison pointed out a broken branch nearby, which could have been used in the fight. The early morning light added a sense of urgency to their work. They knew time was critical in the early stages of an investigation. The detectives used luminol to check for any blood that might have been cleaned up. They also used metal detectors to search for any hidden evidence. As they worked, they interviewed nearby residents and park visitors who might have seen or heard anything unusual. The autopsy later confirmed that Jenny was shot with a 9mm handgun. The police knew they had to find this weapon to make their case stronger. They also checked security cameras in the area, hoping to catch any suspicious activity. Carol, still shaken, gave a brief statement to the police about how she found Jenny's body. She was visibly upset, her voice quivering as she recounted the morning's events. After her statement, Carol went home, hugging Melania tightly, grateful for his presence but deeply disturbed by what she had witnessed. Detectives Harrison and Humley worked long hours, piecing together the evidence. They were determined to find out who could commit such a brutal crime against someone so beloved in their community. Every detail mattered, and they couldn't afford to miss anything. The investigation was just beginning, and the detectives knew they had a long road ahead. The community of Palm Bay held its breath, waiting for answers and hoping for justice for Jenny Braze. Arthur Braze, Jenny's husband, was the first suspect the police investigated. Arthur was 36 years old and worked at a local pet supply store. He was known to be methodical and logical, with a passion for solving complex problems. His interest in amateur pharmacology, a hobby where he experimented with different chemicals, made the police suspicious. Detectives Carol Harrison and Brielle Humley brought Arthur in for questioning on the evening of February 19, 2004. The interrogation room was quiet and dimly lit, adding to the tension. Arthur appeared calm, but was visibly tired and stressed. He claimed he had been working late on the night of the murder, trying to complete an inventory of the store. Arthur described his marriage to Jenny as generally happy, but admitted they had their struggles. He said he had no idea who could have wanted to harm her. When the detectives asked about Jenny's affairs, Arthur's calm demeanor shifted. He seemed shocked and hurt, insisting he did not know anything about her extramarital relationships. Detectives pressed Arthur on his whereabouts during the critical hours of the murder. Arthur provided an alibi, stating he was at work until 10 p.m. and then went straight home. However, there were no witnesses to confirm his story. His colleagues had left earlier, and there were no security cameras at the store to verify his claims. Arthur's methodical nature came into question. The detectives knew he had a deep understanding of chemistry from his hobby. They wondered if he could have used this knowledge in the murder. However, Arthur maintained his innocence, growing more frustrated with each question. Forensic evidence began to mount against him. The bullets used in the murder were traced back to a 9mm handgun registered in Arthur's name. When asked about the gun, Arthur said it had been stolen from his home months before, but he had not reported it missing. This admission only increased the detectives' suspicions. Throughout the interrogation, Arthur's responses were a mix of calm explanations and visible frustration. He repeatedly denied any involvement in Jenny's murder, but the detectives felt there was more to the story. They knew they needed more evidence to either confirm his guilt or clear his name. As the investigation continued, Arthur remained a prime suspect. The community of Palm Bay watched closely, waiting to see if the quiet, logical husband could really be behind such a brutal crime. The detectives were determined to uncover the truth, knowing that every detail could bring them closer to solving the case. Judyan Wharton, Jenny Braze's close friend, was the second suspect the police investigated. Judyan, 32, was a metaphysical surgeon and spiritual healer from Los Angeles, something her deeply conservative community found deeply suspicious. She was known for her vibrant and outgoing personality. Always the life of the party, Judyan often brought homemade health drinks and snacks to Jenny's home. She believed in holistic living and frequently talked about the benefits of natural remedies. On February 20, 2004, detectives Carol Harrison and Brielle Humley called Judyan in for questioning. She arrived dressed in bright, flowing clothes, with a calm and serene demeanor. The detectives asked her about her relationship with Jenny, and Judyan admitted they were very close friends. She also confessed that they had a sexual relationship but insisted it was consensual and loving. Judyan's alibi for the night of the murder was that she was hosting a spiritual healing session at her home, attended by several people. She provided the names of the attendees, who later confirmed her story. However, the detectives were still suspicious due to her close relationship with Jenny and access to her home. When questioned about the murder, Judyan seemed genuinely shocked and saddened. She described Jenny as a kind and loving person who would never hurt anyone. The detectives asked if she knew about Jenny's other relationships, including the one with David Clark. Judyan said she was aware of them and did not feel threatened by them, as her beliefs embraced love in many forms. Despite her calm exterior, Judyan's responses raised some eyebrows. She claimed to have spiritual sexual relationships with various celebrities such as Tom Cruise and Oprah, along with historical figures like Jane Austen and Jane Eyre. In fact, she claimed to have had sex with every Jane who had ever lived, which made her seem less credible. The detectives found it hard to take her completely seriously, but continued to probe for any possible motive. The detectives also considered Judyan's knowledge of natural substances. They wondered if she could have used her expertise to commit the crime in a unique way. However, the method of murder, a 9mm handgun, did not fit her usual practices. There were no signs of her involvement in acquiring or using a firearm. Judyan's calm and cooperative demeanor during the interrogation contrasted with the brutal nature of the crime. She maintained her innocence throughout, expressing deep sorrow for the loss of her friend. The detectives noted her emotional responses but knew they needed more concrete evidence to rule her out as a suspect. On February 22, 2004, Palm Bay police received a significant breakthrough in the case. It was a sunny, warm afternoon when a local retiree, 98-year-old Maria May Cleedon, was cleaning out her garage. While sorting through some old boxes, she stumbled upon a VHS tape without a label. Curious, she decided to play it in her VCR, a Panasonic model she had owned for years. To her shock, the tape contained a homemade adult movie featuring Jenny Braze and David Clark, the local high school principal. Horrified by what she saw and on the verge of having a heart attack, Maria May immediately called the police and handed over the tape. Detectives Carol Harrison and Brielle Honley viewed the tape and were stunned by its contents. The video not only confirmed an affair between Jenny and David Clark, but also suggested a potential motive. The detectives noted the sexually explicit nature of the footage and the fact that it might have been filmed secretly. The discovery of the VHS tape added a new layer to the investigation. The police speculated that the tape could be a motive for murder, either to silence Jenny or to prevent the tape from being exposed. Detective Harrison believed the tape might be the key to solving the case. The police continued to investigate the origin of the VHS tape. They discovered that the tape had been recorded on an old camcorder, a Sony Handycam model. They traced the serial number to a store in Palm Bay, where it was purchased 2 years earlier. The store's records showed it was bought with a credit card belonging to Judyan Wharton. This new evidence shifted the focus back to Judyan. The detectives brought her in for further questioning. Judyan maintained her innocence and denied any knowledge of the tape. She suggested that someone might be trying to frame her. The discovery of the VHS tape raised more questions than answers, but it was a crucial piece of evidence. The police knew they had to dig deeper to uncover the truth and bring justice for Jenny Braze. David Clark, the local high school principal, became a key suspect after the discovery of the VHS tape. David, 65 years old, was known for his strict, no-nonsense approach to administration. He had a reputation for being authoritative, often making controversial decisions, like banning books such as Anne of Green Gables and Little House on the Prairie for their perceived erotic content. On February 23, 2004, detectives Carol Harrison and Brielle humbly brought David in for further questioning. The police station was buzzing with activity, and David seemed visibly nervous as he sat in the interrogation room. The detectives presented the sexually explicit VHS tape as evidence, and David's reaction was one of extreme shock and shame. David admitted to the affair with Jenny, but insisted that it was consensual and that he had no part in her murder. He confessed that their relationship had been ongoing for about a year and that they had met in secret to avoid scandal. He explained that the tape was part of a collection of homemade adult movie they had filmed with Judyan, acting as director and camera woman, a situation not uncommon in a state where 1 out of every 8 adults have performed in an adult movie. The detectives dug deeper, questioning David about his whereabouts on the night of the murder. David claimed he was at home, grading papers and watching the evening news on WKMG News 6. His wife Elis confirmed his alibi, stating they spent the evening together. Despite his strong alibi, the detectives remained suspicious. David's demeanor during the interrogation was a mix of fear and defensiveness. He denied any involvement in Jenny's death and seemed genuinely distressed about the accusations. The detectives noted his nervousness and asked if he had any enemies who might want to frame him. David mentioned several parents and staff members who were unhappy with his strict policies, but none seemed likely suspects. The police also investigated David's financial records and phone logs. They found no evidence of financial trouble or suspicious activity. His phone records showed no contact with Jenny on the day of the murder, supporting his claim that they hadn't planned to meet. However, the detectives were not entirely convinced of David's innocence. A sexually explicit tape, his secret relationship with Jenny, and his authoritative nature all pointed to possible motives. They knew they needed more evidence to either clear his name or prove his guilt. As the investigation continued, the community of Palm Bay was left reeling from the revelations. Parents and students at the high school were shocked to learn about David's secret hobby and his affair with Jenny. The detectives were determined to get to the bottom of the case, knowing that every piece of evidence brought them closer to finding Jenny's killer. On February 24, 2004, after days of intense investigation, the police finally identified the murderer, Arthur Braze, Jenny's husband. Arthur, 36, worked at a local pet supply store and was known for his logical and methodical nature. The police pieced together a timeline of events and evidence that pointed directly to him. Arthur discovered Jenny's affairs with David Clark and Judyan Wharton, which left him feeling utterly betrayed. The emotional turmoil and anger drove him to meticulously plan her murder. His motive was clear: revenge and a desire to expose Jenny's infidelity. On the night of the murder, Arthur left work earlier than he claimed. Surveillance footage from a nearby gas station showed him purchasing a pair of gloves and a bottle of water around 8 p.m. This contradicted his alibi of working late. Additionally, ballistics tests confirmed that the bullets used in Jenny's murder came from the 9mm handgun registered to Arthur, which he claimed had been stolen. The detectives also found traces of gunpowder residue on a jacket in Arthur's closet, further incriminating him. On the sunny morning of February 24, the detectives, armed with an arrest warrant, arrived at Arthur's house. It was a tense moment as they knocked on the door, knowing they were about to confront the prime suspect. Arthur opened the door, looking tired and stressed. When the detectives informed him that he was under arrest for the murder of his wife, he appeared shocked but did not resist. His demeanor was one of resignation, as if he knew this moment was inevitable. The police handcuffed him and led him to the squad car while the neighbors watched in disbelief. The arrest sent shockwaves through the community of Palm Bay. Jenny's family, still grieving her loss, were devastated to learn that Arthur was the murderer. They had trusted him and never suspected he could commit such a heinous act. Their reactions were a mix of sorrow and anger, struggling to understand how someone so close could betray them. As Arthur was taken into custody, the detectives reflected on the complexity of the case. They had uncovered layers of secrets and lies, ultimately leading them to the truth. The evidence was overwhelming, and they were confident they had the right person. The arrest of Arthur Braze brought a sense of closure to the community, but also left many questions about how such a tragedy could occur. The detectives knew that while the arrest was a significant step, the journey to justice for Jenny Braze was far from over. Arthur Braze's trial began on May 15, 2005, at the Brevard County Courthouse. The community of Palm Bay was captivated by the case, which had dominated local news for months. The courtroom was filled with reporters, family members, and curious residents eager to see justice served. The prosecution was led by District Attorney Sarah Guber, a 45-year-old with a reputation for being tough and thorough. Gubert argued that Arthur had meticulously planned Jenny's murder out of jealousy and anger over her affairs. She presented the gunpowder residue, the incriminating surveillance footage, and the ballistics evidence as proof. Gubert also highlighted the note written in Jenny's blood, "I am a cheater," as a clear sign of Arthur's motive. The defense attorney, Robert Lackley, was a seasoned lawyer known for his calm demeanor and sharp intellect. Lackley, 50, argued that the evidence was circumstantial and that there was no direct proof linking Arthur to the crime scene at the exact time of the murder. He suggested that someone else could have framed Arthur, pointing out the other suspects, David Clark and Judyan Wharton, who also had motives. Throughout the trial, Jenny's family sat in the front row, their faces a mix of sorrow and determination. They listened intently as witnesses testified and evidence was presented. The emotional toll was visible, especially when the sexually explicit VHS tape was shown in court, graphically revealing Jenny's affair with David Clark. After 2 weeks of intense testimony, the jury deliberated for 3 days. On June 3, 2005, they reached a verdict. The courtroom was silent as the foreman stood to deliver the decision, guilty of first-degree murder. Arthur Braze showed little emotion as the verdict was read, his face pale and expressionless. Arthur was sentenced to 500 years in prison without the possibility of parole. The sentence brought a sense of relief to Jenny's family, but also a deep sadness that such a tragedy had occurred. The community of Palm Bay reacted with mixed emotions. Some felt justice had been served, while others were still shocked that Arthur, a man they had trusted, could commit such a brutal crime. The case sparked conversations about domestic violence and the hidden lives people leave behind closed doors. After the trial of Arthur Braze concluded in June 2004, the residents of Palm Bay, Florida, began the long process of moving forward. David Clark, the high school principal, faced severe backlash after the trial. His affair with Jenny and the explicit VHS tape had tarnished his reputation. He resigned from his position and moved away from Palm Bay, seeking anonymity in a small town in Georgia. Despite his involvement in the scandal, he was never charged with any crime related to Jenny's death. Judyan Wharton, Jenny's friend and another suspect, continued her work as a metaphysical surgeon and spiritual healer. Although she was cleared of any wrongdoing, the scandal affected her business. She held a public healing ceremony for Jenny, inviting those who knew and loved her to join in a collective remembrance. This event helped Judyan regain some trust and respect in the community. Arthur Braze, now serving a life sentence without parole, adjusted to life in prison. He participated in counseling and anger management programs, but the weight of his actions haunted him. Occasionally, he wrote letters to his children, hoping one day they might understand his actions, though it seemed unlikely. The trial and its aftermath left a lasting impact on Palm Bay. The community became more vigilant about domestic issues, with local organizations hosting workshops on recognizing and preventing domestic violence. Jenny's story served as a sobering reminder of the importance of open communication and support in relationships. As time passed, the memory of Jenny Braze remained a poignant chapter in Palm Bay's history. The community's resilience and commitment to honoring her legacy ensured that her spirit lived on through the activities and causes she loved. Twins Brittany and Bethany Ingretza, both 25 years old, were known for their vibrant personalities and dreams. Brittany, a nurturing and compassionate kindergarten teacher, always put others' needs before her own. Bethany, on the other hand, was a creative soul, passionate about her music and spending hours composing and playing her guitar. She was the driving force behind her band, Polka Threat, which blended traditional polka music with indie rock. Unfortunately, like many in their dead-end small Midwestern town, to make ends meet they had to moonlight as strippers under the names Richie Rich and Dennis the Menace. The town of Marengo, Illinois, nestled in the heart of McHenry County, was a close-knit community with a population of just over 7,500 residents. Known for its picturesque landscapes and historic downtown, Marengo seemed like the epitome of small-town charm. The local newspaper, the Marengo Gazette, covered the town's happenings, from high school football games to the annual Pumpkin Festival, which drew visitors from neighboring towns. September of 2006 marked a turning point in the lives of the Ingretza sisters. They had dreams of escaping the confines of their small town, frequently called by the twins the most boring place on earth, and pursuing their passions on a larger stage. Brittany had been saving up money to move to Chicago and enroll in a prestigious teaching program, while Bethany had her sights set on recording an album with Polka Threat. However, their dreams were overshadowed by the harsh reality of their financial struggles. Moonlighting as strippers at the local club, the Velvet Lounge, was a secret they kept hidden from their friends and family. The club, located on Main Street, was a dimly lit establishment known for its late-night entertainment. It was a place where the town's secrets were whispered and forgotten, a sanctuary for those seeking an escape from their mundane lives. We will delve deeper into the events leading up to the heinous crime that shocked the town of Marengo. Stay tuned for more revelations and twists in this tragic tale. On a crisp and cool September day in 2006, the small town of Marengo, Illinois, situated just an hour away from the bustling city of Chicago, was about to be shaken to its core. It was a town where everyone knew everyone, where doors were left unlocked, and crime was something that happened in distant cities or on the evening news. But on that fateful day, Marengo would become the backdrop for a chilling crime that would leave its residents in shock and disbelief. Coral James, a concerned neighbor, had grown worried after not seeing the vibrant and outgoing Ingretsa twins, Brittany and Bethany, for several days. She decided to take matters into her own hands and went over to their apartment to check on them. Little did she know that what she would find inside would haunt her for the rest of her days. As Coral stepped into the apartment, a sense of unease settled over her. The air was heavy, and an eerie silence hung in the rooms. She made her way to the bathroom, and there, in the cold porcelain bathtub, she discovered the lifeless bodies of Brittany and Bethany. The sight that greeted her was nothing short of horrifying. The twins' hands were tightly bound behind their backs, and the marks on their necks hinted at a brutal strangulation. The room was filled with an overwhelming sense of tragedy, as if the very walls were mourning the loss of these vibrant young women. The news quickly spread throughout the town, and shockwaves reverberated through the close-knit community. On that fateful September day in 2006, the small town of Marengo, Illinois was shaken to its core by the gruesome discovery of the lifeless bodies of twin sisters, Brittany and Bethany Ingretsa. The police, led by Detectives Anderson and Ranger, arrived swiftly at the crime scene, determined to unravel the mystery behind this heinous crime. As they entered the apartment, a chilling sight greeted them. The once cozy living space had been transformed into a scene of chaos and despair. Furniture was overturned, belongings scattered haphazardly, and the air was heavy with an eerie silence. It was clear that a violent struggle had taken place within these walls. The detectives meticulously combed through every inch of the apartment, searching for any clue that could shed light on the motive and identity of the killer. They carefully collected fibers, fingerprints, and any other trace evidence that might hold the key to this tragic puzzle. In their search for answers, the detectives turned to the twins' personal belongings. They examined Brittany's kindergarten classroom, where colorful drawings and handwritten notes from her young students adorned the walls. They explored Bethany's music studio, filled with guitars, amplifiers, and stacks of sheet music. The detectives couldn't help but wonder if these passions and connections to the outside world held any significance in the investigation. Outside the apartment, the detectives spoke to neighbors and witnesses, hoping to gather any information that could lead them closer to the truth. They diligently questioned those who had seen or heard anything unusual in the days leading up to the discovery of the bodies. The detectives also reached out to local businesses, searching for surveillance footage that might provide a glimpse into the last moments of the twins' lives. As the investigation unfolded, the media frenzy surrounding the case grew. Local newspapers, such as the Marengo Tribune, dedicated coverage to the shocking crime. Chicagoland's best television news stations, like WGN and ABC7, aired reports urging viewers to come forward with any information they might have. Days turned into weeks, and the detectives tirelessly pursued every lead that came their way. They collaborated with forensic experts, consulted with renowned criminal profilers, and even reached out to the FBI for assistance. The case became a haunting presence in the town of Marengo, with whispers of the twins' tragic fate echoing through the streets. The investigation into the tragic deaths of Brittany and Bethany Ingretsa took a significant turn when the police focused their attention on Darren Kapa, a 28-year-old mechanic and Brittany's former boyfriend. Darren's turbulent relationship with Brittany, combined with his history of possessiveness and stalking, made him a prime suspect in this heinous crime. Darren's obsession with Brittany began after their breakup, and he struggled to accept the end of their relationship. Friends and acquaintances recall his volatile temper and his relentless efforts to maintain control over Brittany's life. He would often show up unannounced at her workplace, leaving her feeling frightened and unsafe. The police wasted no time in bringing Darren in for questioning. They hoped to uncover any evidence that could link him to the murder of the Ingretsa twins. During the interrogation, Darren's demeanor was tense and defensive. He vehemently denied any involvement in the crime, claiming that he had moved on from his relationship with Brittany. As the investigation unfolded, The police delved into Darren's background, meticulously scrutinizing his every move. They discovered that Darren's obsession with Brittany had escalated in the months leading up to the murders. He had been seen lurking around the twins' apartment building, often peering through their windows. Some witnesses even claimed to have seen him following the sisters as they went about their daily routines. To strengthen their case against Darren, the police analyzed his phone records, hoping to find any incriminating evidence. They discovered a series of disturbing text messages and voicemails that Darren had sent to Brittany in the weeks prior to the murders. In these messages, he expressed his anger and frustration, threatening to harm her if she didn't reconcile with him. The police also uncovered surveillance footage from a nearby convenience store, placing Darren in the vicinity of the Ingretza twins' apartment on the night of the murders. This crucial piece of evidence further implicated him in the crime. Despite the mounting evidence against Darren, the investigation was far from over. The police continued to explore other leads and potential suspects, ensuring that no stone was left unturned in their pursuit of justice for Brittany and Bethany. As the investigation into the shocking murder of Brittany and Bethany Ingretza unfolded, the police turned their attention to Roxy Blaine, a 26-year-old co-worker and close friend of the twins. Roxy, known for her caring and empathetic nature, had expressed concerns about Brittany's ex-boyfriend, Darren Kapa, in the past. However, her credibility had been undermined by her occupation as a stripper and her history of alcoholism. In the small town of Marengo, Illinois, where everyone seemed to know everyone else's business, Roxy's reputation had been tarnished. The local gossip mill whispered tales of her wild nights at the strip club and her struggles with addiction. But the police knew that sometimes, the most unexpected individuals could hold the key to solving a crime. On that fateful day in September 2006, the police brought Roxy in for questioning. Detective Anderson, a seasoned investigator with a reputation for getting to the truth, stared intently at Roxy, searching for any signs of deception. Roxy, dressed in worn-out jeans and a faded band t-shirt, sat nervously in the uncomfortable metal chair. She fidgeted with her fingers, her eyes darting around the room. She recounted the countless nights they spent together at the strip club, sharing stories and dreams. She described the bond they had formed, a sisterhood born out of adversity. Roxy's eyes welled up with tears as she spoke of the twins' kindness and the love they had shown her during her darkest moments. The detective pressed further, asking about any potential motives or connections that could shed light on the crime. Roxy hesitated for a moment, her mind racing with memories and possibilities. She mentioned a mysterious woman who had been lurking around the club in the weeks leading up to the murders. She described her unsettling demeanor and the way she seemed fixated on the twins. Detective Anderson furrowed his brow, his mind working to piece together the puzzle. He made a mental note to check security footage from that time, hoping it would provide some insight into this unknown figure. He thanked Roxy for her cooperation and assured her that they would leave no stone unturned in their quest for justice. As Roxy left the police station that day, a mix of relief and anxiety washed over her. She knew that the investigation was far from over, and the truth was still shrouded in darkness. But she had taken the first step in helping to unravel the web of secrets surrounding the murder of her beloved friends. In a shocking turn of events, the investigation into the brutal murders of Brittany and Bethany Ingretza took a surprising twist. The small town of Marengo, Illinois was left reeling as new evidence emerged, shedding light on a hidden connection between two key suspects. Detectives Anderson and Ranger, leading the investigation, meticulously combed through the evidence, determined to bring justice to the slain sisters. It was during this process that they stumbled upon a startling revelation. Roxy Blaine, the twins' co-worker and close friend, had a secret sexual involvement with Darren Kapa, Brittany's volatile ex-boyfriend. As the investigation progressed, it became clear that Roxy had been concealing her sexual relationship with Darren, adding a layer of complexity to the case. This revelation raised questions about her potential motive and involvement in the heinous crime that rocked the town. The town of Marengo was abuzz with speculation as the news of Roxy's secret relationship with Darren spread like wildfire, fueling public interest and raising even more questions about the motives behind the twins' murders. As the investigation intensified, the detectives began to piece together a timeline of events leading up to the fateful day in September 2006. they discovered that Darren's possessive nature and inability to accept the breakup had driven him to stalk and harass Brittany relentlessly. Roxy, caught in the middle, had become entangled in a dangerous web of deceit and manipulation. The investigation took a sudden turn as the focus shifted to a new suspect, Tom Appelforth, a 30-year-old musician and close friend of Bethany and Gretza. Tom, known for his laid-back attitude and easygoing personality, was Bethany's bandmate in the popular local band Polka Threat. The band, which blended traditional polka music with indie rock, had gained a small but dedicated following in the Marengo music scene. Despite being close friends with Bethany, Tom had always carried a torch for her. Friends and acquaintances described him as supportive of Bethany's musical aspirations and never showing any signs of aggression or violence. However, the police had to consider all possibilities and thoroughly investigate Tom's connection to the heinous crime that had rocked the small town of Marengo. Detectives Anderson and Ranger brought Tom in for questioning, hoping to uncover any hidden motives or connections to the murder of the Ingretza twins. The interrogation room was tense as the detectives pressed Tom for information. They carefully probed into his relationship with Bethany, looking for any signs of jealousy or resentment that could have driven him to commit such a heinous act. Tom maintained his innocence throughout the questioning, providing an alibi for the night of the murder. He claimed to have been at a local bar, the Rusty Nail, that evening. The detectives meticulously verified Tom's alibi, interviewing bar staff and patrons who confirmed his presence at the venue during the time of the crime. Despite the alibi, the detectives continued to investigate Tom's background and acquaintances. They delved into his social media presence, looking for any clues or connections that could shed light on his involvement. They also reached out to band members and friends, seeking additional information about Tom's relationship with Bethany and any potential conflicts that might have arisen. In a shocking turn of events, the small town of Marengo, Illinois, was rocked by the revelation of the true identity of the murderer responsible for the heinous crime that claimed the lives of Brittany and Bethany Ingretza. After weeks of tireless investigation, the police finally identified and arrested Darren Kapa, a 28-year-old mechanic and former boyfriend of Brittany. Darren's motive for the brutal killings was rooted in jealousy and resentment towards Brittany's deep bond with her twin sister. Unable to accept their breakup, Darren's anger and obsession grew, leading him down a dark and sinister path. Consumed by feelings of anger and rejection, he devised a twisted plan to exact his revenge on Brittany. On that fateful September night, Darren entered the apartment where the sisters resided. In a fit of rage, he unleashed his fury upon Brittany, suffocating her to death on the living room sofa. But he didn't stop there. Bethany, tragically caught in the crossfire, became an innocent victim of Darren's deranged actions. The small town of Marengo was left in shock and disbelief as the news of the gruesome double murder spread like wildfire. The police, determined to bring justice to the victims and their grieving families, tirelessly pursued the investigation. They meticulously combed through evidence, interviewed witnesses, and analyzed every lead that came their way. The weight of the case and the urgency to solve it weighed heavily on their shoulders as the community anxiously awaited answers. Finally, a breakthrough came when a key piece of evidence linked Darren to the crime. The police, armed with this crucial information, swiftly moved in to apprehend him. The arrest sent shockwaves through the town as the residents grappled with the realization that the murderer had been living among them. The arrest of Darren Kapa brought a sense of relief to the community, but it also served as a stark reminder of the darkness that can lurk in the most unexpected places. In the wake of the shocking murders of twins Brittany and Bethany Ingretza, the small town of Marengo, Illinois was left reeling. The gruesome crime had shattered the community's sense of security and left a void that could never be filled. As the case unfolded, the search for justice became paramount, and the trial of the murderer, Darren Kapa, became a pivotal moment in the quest for closure. The trial began on a somber April morning in the Marengo County Courthouse. Prosecutor Larry Pascoe-Grover, a seasoned legal expert known for his unwavering dedication to justice, presented a compelling case against Kapa. With meticulous attention to detail, Pascoe-Grover meticulously laid out the evidence, painting a vivid picture of the events that unfolded on that fateful night. Attorney Tom Berlin, representing the defense, fought tooth and nail to cast doubt on the prosecution's case. Berlin, known for his sharp legal mind and persuasive arguments, attempted to create an alternative narrative that would exonerate his client. The courtroom was filled with tension as the two legal titans clashed in a battle of wits and rhetoric. Throughout the trial, the Ingretza family sat in the front row, their faces etched with grief and anger. Their presence served as a constant reminder of the lives that had been brutally cut short. As the trial progressed, witnesses took the stand, recounting the events leading up to the murders. Friends and acquaintances of the victims spoke of their vibrant personalities and the dreams they had for the future. The defense called into question the credibility of some witnesses, while the prosecution presented forensic evidence that seemed to point directly at Kaplan. After weeks of intense courtroom drama, the jury finally reached a verdict. The tension in the air was palpable as the foreperson stood and delivered the words that would determine Kaplan's fate. Guilty. The courtroom erupted in a mix of relief, sorrow, and a sense of closure for the families of Brittany and Bethany. The judge, known for his no-nonsense approach to sentencing, wasted no time in delivering his judgment. Kaplan was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. As he was led away in handcuffs, the family of the victims found a small measure of solace in knowing that justice had been served. Following the conclusion of the trial, the lives of those involved in the Marengo, Illinois murder case took different paths. Darren Kapa, the perpetrator of the heinous crime, received his just punishment and was sentenced to a lifetime behind bars. The small town breathed a collective sigh of relief, knowing that justice had been served. For the Ingretza family, however, the pain of losing Brittany and Bethany remained ever present. In the years that followed, they established a scholarship fund in honor of Brittany and Bethany. The fund provided financial assistance to aspiring teachers and musicians, keeping the sisters' dreams alive. Meanwhile, Roxy Blaine, who had been involved with Darren Kapa, faced the consequences of her actions. The revelation of her secret relationship with the murderer shocked the community. Roxy, burdened by guilt and shame, sought redemption by volunteering at a local women's shelter. She hoped to make amends and prevent others from falling victim to abusive relationships. The case of the Ingretza sisters had a lasting impact on the town of Marengo. The community came together to raise awareness about domestic violence, organizing workshops and seminars to educate residents on recognizing the signs of abuse. The Marengo Police Department implemented new protocols to ensure that future cases of domestic violence would be handled with utmost care and urgency. The town of Marengo, Illinois, will forever bear the scars of this tragic crime. The lives of Brittany and Bethany Ingretza were cut short, leaving a community shattered and searching for answers. True crime case files will continue to uncover stories like these, shedding light on the darkest corners of humanity. Eleanor Jian, a seemingly kind-hearted and gentle woman at the age of 77, was known for her nurturing nature and love for her family. Having retired as a children's librarian, she found solace in her passions for gardening and reading classic novels, cherishing the simple pleasures life had to offer. Despite her advancing age, Eleanor remained an active presence in her family, dedicating her time to supervising the lives of her stepchildren, Cynthia and Ben. Cynthia, the daughter of Eleanor's first husband, and Ben, the son of her late second husband, the renowned lawn care tycoon Bobby Judyan Jr., were the center of Eleanor's world. She seemingly ensured their well-being and happiness, shaping their lives with her wisdom, care, and sizable financial resources from her late husbands. August of 2009 was a time of tranquility for Tybee Island, a picturesque coastal town where Eleanor resided. The warm summer sun kissed the sandy beaches, inviting locals and tourists alike to indulge in the serene beauty of the Atlantic Ocean. The community thrived on its close-knit nature, with neighbors sharing stories on their porches and attending lively town gatherings. As the sun set on the island, Eleanor could often be found tending to her vibrant garden, a riot of colors and fragrances that served as a testament to her green thumb. Her love for literature spilled over into her surroundings, with quaint bookshelves adorning her cozy cottage, filled with timeless classics and well-worn paperbacks, particularly those of Joyce Lehman, her favorite novelist. In the wake of Eleanor's tragic murder, the tight-knit community would be left in shock and disbelief. The peaceful aura that had once protected Tybee Island was shattered, replaced by an atmosphere of fear and uncertainty. As the investigation unfolds, we will delve deeper into the lives of Eleanor Jian and those around her, peeling back the layers of secrets and deceit that led to her untimely demise. Stay tuned. We will uncover more shocking revelations and shed light on the dark underbelly of this seemingly peaceful family. On the morning of August 11th, 2009, the tranquil shores of Tybee Island, Georgia were shattered by a chilling discovery. Eleanor Jian, a beloved member of the secluded seaside community, met a tragic end as her dead body was found sprawled on the sandy beach. The shockwaves of this heinous crime reverberated through the tight-knit community, leaving its residents in a state of disbelief. The grim discovery was made by Patty O'Hurley, a local retiree who had made it a habit to take her leisurely morning walks along the shoreline. As Patty strolled along the beach, enjoying the gentle breeze and the sound of crashing waves, she stumbled upon a sight that would haunt her forever. There, lying in the sand, was the naked body of Eleanor Jian. Patty's heart raced as she took in the gruesome scene before her. She immediately reached for her cell phone, trembling with shock, and dialed 911. The authorities were dispatched to the scene without delay, their sirens piercing the otherwise serene morning air. As news of the discovery spread like wildfire, Tybee Island was thrust into the spotlight. The peaceful community, once known for its picturesque beauty and serene atmosphere, was now the center of a chilling murder investigation. Reporters from local news outlets flocked to the scene, their cameras capturing the grim reality that had befallen this idyllic coastal town. The shock and grief that gripped Tybee Island were palpable. The community rallied together, offering support to Eleanor's family and vowing to find justice for their beloved neighbor. Candlelight vigils were held in her honor, with tearful residents coming together to remember the kind-hearted woman whose life had been cut short. As the investigation unfolded, the media frenzy surrounding the case intensified. News outlets across the state covered the story, speculating about possible motives and suspects. The town that was once known for its tranquility now found itself under the harsh glare of the true crime gaze. On that fateful morning of August 11th, 2009, the peaceful community of Tybee Island, Georgia was shaken to its core when the naked and lifeless body of Eleanor Jian, a beloved member of their close-knit society, was discovered on the beach. The shocking sight sent shockwaves of disbelief throughout the town, leaving its residents in a state of fear and confusion. Lead investigator Detective James Matthews, a seasoned veteran in the field of criminal investigation, arrived at the crime scene along with his partner, Officer Laura Linder. Their presence brought a sense of reassurance to the distraught community, as they knew that justice would be pursued relentlessly. The beach, once a symbol of relaxation and joy, had now transformed into a chilling crime scene. The sand, once golden and inviting, was now stained with the crimson evidence of a brutal murder. Eleanor had been ruthlessly shot to death, a fact that sent shockwaves through the hearts of the residents who had known her as a kind-hearted and gentle woman. With meticulous precision, Detective Matthews and Officer Linder began their investigation. Every inch of the crime scene was examined with utmost care, as they sought to uncover any clue that could lead them to the perpetrator. They combed through the sand, collecting samples and preserving any potential evidence that could shed light on this heinous crime. The forensic team was called in to assist with the investigation, utilizing state-of-the-art techniques to analyze the collected evidence. Fingerprints were meticulously lifted, DNA samples were carefully processed, and ballistics experts examined the bullet casings found near the crime scene. Every piece of evidence was crucial in piecing together the puzzle that would ultimately reveal the identity of Eleanor's killer. The investigation into Eleanor Jian's murder would prove to be a challenging and complex endeavor, but the determination and unwavering commitment of Detective Matthews, Officer Linder, and the entire police force would not waver. They vowed to bring justice to Eleanor and restore peace to the shattered community. Ben Jian, aged 41, emerged as the prime suspect in the shocking murder of Eleanor Jian, his stepmother. Ben, known for his charismatic charm and smooth-talking nature, had always presented himself as a caring and devoted family member. However, as the investigation unfolded, a darker side of his character began to surface. Behind his affable exterior lay a web of secrets and resentment. Eleanor,
in a twisted and manipulative move, had coerced Ben into a decades-long sexual relationship to secure his inheritance and substantial allowance. This revelation sent shockwaves through the small seaside community of Tybee Island, Georgia, where the murder took place. The police wasted no time in interrogating Ben, hoping to uncover the truth behind Eleanor's brutal demise. Detective James Matthews and his partner, Officer Laura Linder, skillfully probed Ben, their questions piercing through his carefully constructed facade. The interrogation room buzzed with tension as the investigators sought to unravel the complex mix of emotions that Ben displayed. Ben's response to the interrogation was a delicate balance of anger, calmness, and evasion. He vehemently denied any involvement in Eleanor's murder, claiming to have been at a local coffee shop during the time of her death. The investigators painstakingly cross-referenced his alibi, meticulously examining CCTV footage and interviewing witnesses from the coffee shop. However, they found no concrete evidence to either confirm or refute his claims. As the investigation progressed, the media frenzy surrounding the case intensified. Local newspapers, such as the Tybee Island Times, splashed headlines about the murder across their front pages, captivating the attention of the community. The police continued their relentless pursuit of justice, leaving no stone unturned in their quest for the truth. They meticulously combed through phone records, financial transactions, and witness testimonies, piecing together a timeline of events leading up to Eleanor's murder. Every detail, no matter how seemingly insignificant, was scrutinized in their pursuit of justice. Cynthia Jian, aged 45, the wife of Ben Jian and stepdaughter of the late Eleanor Jian from her first husband, emerged as the second suspect in the shocking murder case that gripped the small community of Tybee Island, Georgia. Known for her elegance and refined taste, Cynthia presented herself as a supportive spouse to her husband and loving mother to their daughter, Aroma. However, behind her polished exterior lay a web of secrets and a calculating, ambitious nature. According to the police investigation, Cynthia was forced into a sexual relationship with Eleanor, her stepmother, as a means to maintain her family's financial status. This revelation sent shockwaves through the community as the residents struggled to come to terms with the dark secrets that had been unearthed within the Judyan's family. During the intense interrogation, Cynthia's demeanor fluctuated between anger, calmness, and denial. She vehemently denied any involvement in the murder, insisting that she loved Eleanor like a mother and would never harm her. However, the evidence gathered by the police paints a different picture. Investigators uncovered a series of incriminating emails exchanged between Cynthia and Eleanor, discussing their illicit relationship, including graphic descriptions of how Eleanor wanted her stepdaughter to perform sexually. These emails, along with other pieces of evidence, raised suspicions about Cynthia's motive for murder. As the investigation into Cynthia Jian's involvement in the murder unfolds, the community anxiously awaited answers. Would justice be served, or will the secrets of Tybee Island continue to haunt its residents? In the ongoing investigation into the shocking murder of Eleanor Jian, a new suspect emerged. Harold Beechers, a seemingly friendly neighbor of the victim, became the focus of intense scrutiny. Known for his outgoing personality and close bond with Eleanor, Harold's involvement in this perplexing case raised eyebrows within the tight-knit community of Tybee Island, Georgia. Harold, a middle-aged man with a penchant for Hawaiian shirts, had always been a familiar face in the neighborhood. He was often seen engaging in friendly conversations with Eleanor, sharing gardening tips and discussing the latest bestsellers. However, beneath his amiable facade, Harold harbored a secret sexual obsession with the elderly woman. The police, armed with newfound evidence from the letters discovered in a secluded cove, turned their attention to Harold. They sought to unravel the depths of his infatuation and determine if it played a role in Eleanor's untimely demise. The interrogation room was tense as Detective James Matthews and Officer Laura Linder questioned Harold, hoping to extract the truth from him. During the interrogation, Harold's emotions were clearly in turmoil. Anger, guilt, and confusion were etched across his face as he struggled to provide coherent answers. The investigators pressed him on the nature of his relationship with Eleanor, delving into the depths of his obsession. Harold's voice trembled as he admitted to the infatuation he had nurtured in secret, but vehemently denied any involvement in her murder. As the questioning continued,
Harold's demeanor shifted. He became increasingly defensive, lashing out at the detectives and insisting on his innocence. The investigation team meticulously probed for inconsistencies, seeking to determine if Harold's obsession had driven him to commit this heinous crime. The weight of suspicion hung heavy in the air as the detectives scrutinized his every word and gesture. In the days following the interrogation, the police tirelessly combed through Harold's background, searching for any evidence that could link him to the murder. They interviewed friends, family, and acquaintances, piecing together a profile of the man behind the friendly facade. The media, hungry for details, began speculating on Harold's possible involvement, sensationalizing the case and fueling public interest. The community of Tybee Island remained on edge. The truth behind Eleanor Judyan's murder remained elusive, and the search for justice intensified. The police, determined to bring closure to this tragic case, left no stone unturned in their relentless pursuit of the truth. In a stunning twist, the investigation into the murder of Eleanor Judyan took a dramatic turn, revealing Cynthia Jian, the stepdaughter of the victim, as the mastermind behind this heinous crime. The motive behind Cynthia's actions was a toxic level of exhaustion and her drive for wealth. This shocking revelation sent shockwaves through the close-knit community of Tybee Island, Georgia, where the murder took place. Cynthia Jian, a woman of elegance and refined taste, had long portrayed herself as a supportive spouse to her husband Ben and loving mother to her daughter, Aroma. However, beneath her polished exterior lay a dark and manipulative nature. The investigation uncovered that Cynthia had been forced into a sexual relationship with Eleanor, her stepmother and main financial provider, as a means to maintain her family's financial status. This disturbing revelation sheds light on the intricate web of deceit and manipulation that surrounded Eleanor's murder. The police diligently pursued this lead, and it was the discovery of a hidden stash of letters in a secluded cove that provided a breakthrough in the case. These letters exposed the secret anger Cynthia had towards Eleanor. The letters revealed her deep-seated hatred for Eleanor, whom she loathed for her voracious sexual appetite, sometimes forcing Cynthia to have sex with her 3 or even 4 times a day. Cynthia saw Eleanor's sizable estate as the only way to secure her family's financial future. As the investigation unfolded, it became clear that Cynthia's actions were not driven by a momentary lapse in judgment, but rather a calculated plan to eliminate Eleanor. The police gathered evidence, piecing together the puzzle to bring Cynthia to justice. The interrogation of Cynthia revealed a mix of anger, calmness, and denial as she attempted to evade responsibility for her actions. Finally, the authorities were able to identify Cynthia Jian as the prime suspect and subsequently arrested her. The arrest sent shockwaves through the community as the residents grappled with the realization that one of their own was capable of such a heinous act. As the trial began, the community of Tybee Island, Georgia, remained in a state of disbelief. The once idyllic seaside community had been forever changed by this tragic event, and as the trial unfolded, the truth behind this shocking crime will be revealed, bringing closure to a community in mourning. The highly anticipated trial of Cynthia Jian, the mastermind behind the shocking murder of Eleanor Judyan, took place in the small coastal town of Tybee Island, Georgia. The courtroom was packed with curious onlookers, eager to witness the conclusion of this gripping true crime case. Prosecutor Sarah McPherson, known for her tenacious pursuit of justice, presented a compelling argument against Cynthia. She meticulously laid out the evidence, painting a vivid picture of Cynthia's greed and calculated actions. McPherson highlighted the disturbing nature of the murder plot, emphasizing how Cynthia's desire for wealth and power drove her to orchestrate the heinous crime. In her opening statement, McPherson described the chilling discovery of Eleanor's naked body on the beach, sending shockwaves through the tight-knit community. She recounted how the police swiftly responded to the crime scene, collecting crucial evidence that would later link Cynthia to the murder. Throughout the trial, McPherson called upon witnesses who had been entangled in the web of deceit surrounding Eleanor's murder. These witnesses, including Patty O'Hurley, the retiree who stumbled upon the crime scene, and the local fisherman who discovered the hidden stash of letters, provided crucial testimony that solidified the prosecution's case. Defense attorney Marley Hobart Greaves, known for his ability to sway juries, presented a different narrative. He argued that Cynthia's actions were driven by sexual exhaustion and emotional turmoil from her coerced relationship with the victim, painting her as a victim of circumstance rather than a cold-blooded murderer. Hobart Greaves pleaded for leniency, urging the jury to consider the toll that Eleanor's manipulation had taken on Cynthia's mental state. As the trial progressed, the courtroom was filled with tension and emotion. The media circus surrounding the trial only added to the intensity, with reporters from local news outlets capturing every moment for the public to devour. After days of compelling arguments and emotional testimonies, the jury retired to deliberate. The verdict, delivered with a mix of relief and disappointment, found Cynthia guilty of first-degree murder. The courtroom erupted in a cacophony of reactions, gasps of disbelief from Cynthia's supporters and tears of relief from Eleanor's family and friends. In a final act of justice, the judge sentenced Cynthia to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The impact of the verdict reverberated through the community, forever changing the lives of those involved. Tybee Island, once known for its idyllic beaches and close-knit community, would forever be marked by the tragic events of August 2009. After the highly publicized trial, the lives of those involved in the shocking murder of Eleanor Jian took a dramatic turn. Cynthia, now incarcerated, would spend the rest of her life behind bars, reflecting on the choices that led to her downfall. Ben, Eleanor's stepson and Cynthia's husband, faced public scrutiny and the weight of his complicity in the crime. Cynthia's daughter, Aroma, was left to navigate the aftermath of her mother's actions, forever changed by the revelation of her family's dark secrets. Meanwhile, the police continued their tireless pursuit of justice, ensuring that no stone was left unturned. Detective James Matthews and Officer Laura Linder, the lead investigators in the case, remained committed to uncovering any lingering mysteries surrounding Eleanor's murder. Their dedication to the truth brought solace to the community, knowing that justice had been served. The impact of this shocking crime rippled through Tybee Island, leaving a lasting mark on the close-knit community. The residents, once known for their tranquility, found themselves grappling with the harsh reality that darkness can lurk even in the most idyllic of places. And thus, we conclude this episode of True Crime Case Files. The story of Eleanor Jian's murder serves as a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of even the most idyllic communities. Emily Triel, a 34-year-old marketing manager from Greenville, South Carolina, was a force to be reckoned with in September of 2009. Known for her outgoing personality and infectious laughter, she charmed everyone she met. Despite her professional success, Emily always prioritized her loved ones, especially her son Lawson, 14. Her dedication to balancing her career and family made her a beloved figure among her family and friends. In September of 2009, Emily's life was at its peak. She had recently landed a prestigious position at a renowned marketing firm, Greenville Marketing Solutions, where she spearheaded successful campaigns for well-known brands like Apple, Nike, and Coca-Cola. Her colleagues described her as a creative genius, always coming up with innovative ideas that captivated audiences. Outside of work, Emily was an active member of her community. She volunteered at the local animal shelter, where she rescued and fostered numerous stray animals. Her love for animals was evident in her home, which was filled with the joyful barks and woofs of her beloved golden retriever, Joseph Clay Powell. Emily's social life was vibrant as well. She was a regular at the Trinity coffee shop, Cafe Mocha, where she would meet with friends to discuss the latest gossip or exchange book recommendations. Her favorite pastime was attending live music events, and she often frequented the popular music venue, the Blue Note, where she would dance the night away with her friends. However, beneath the surface of this seemingly perfect life, darkness lurked. Emily's marriage to her husband, Adam Triel, was not as idyllic as it appeared. Friends and family had noticed the strain in their relationship, with arguments becoming more frequent and intense, especially about Lawson, who was Emily's son from a previous relationship. Despite their troubles, Emily remained fiercely loyal to Adam, determined to make their marriage work. Little did Emily know that her loyalty would lead to her untimely demise. As we delve deeper into this chilling murder investigation, we will uncover the shocking secrets and hidden motives that ultimately led to Emily's tragic end. On a warm September evening in 2009, tragedy struck the tranquil town of Greenville, South Carolina. The peaceful atmosphere was shattered by the sound of 6 gunshots that pierced the air, leaving the community in shock and disbelief. The victim, Emily Triel, a 34-year-old marketing manager, met her untimely demise while innocently waiting in her car at a drive-thru Burger King. The fateful scene was discovered by a concerned citizen named Patty Bell Gomery, who happened to be passing by at that very moment. As she glanced towards Emily's vehicle, her eyes were immediately drawn to the lifeless figure slumped behind the wheel. The sight sent a wave of fear and disbelief coursing through her veins, leaving her trembling with apprehension. Without wasting a moment, Patty Bell Gomery swiftly dialed 911, her voice quivering as he relayed the harrowing details to the emergency operator. Her words were laden with a mix of shock and horror as she described the grisly tableau that had unfolded before his eyes. The operator, well-versed in handling such distressing calls, calmly guided Patty Bell through the necessary steps while assuring him that help was on the way. As the minutes ticked by, Patty Bell's mind raced, trying to make sense of the senseless violence that had befallen this quiet corner of Greenville. The once serene neighborhood now buzzed with the presence of law enforcement officers, their flashing lights casting an eerie glow on the surrounding area. News vans from local media outlets descended upon the scene, eager to capture every detail of this shocking crime. As the investigation unfolded, officers meticulously combed through the area, collecting evidence and interviewing witnesses. The drive-thru Burger King, now a haunting backdrop to this heinous act, became a focal point for detectives seeking any clues that might shed light on the identity of the perpetrator. Meanwhile, news of Emily's tragic death spread like wildfire through the tight-knit community. Friends, family, and colleagues were left reeling from the loss of a vibrant and beloved individual. The shockwaves of this crime reverberated far beyond the boundaries of Greenville, leaving a lasting impact on all who heard the news. The Greenville Police Department swiftly responded to the distress call that came in on that fateful September evening in 2009. Detectives Erica Leach and JoJo Brownlee, both seasoned investigators with a reputation for their meticulous approach, took charge of the investigation. Upon arriving at the scene, the detectives were met with a chilling sight. Emily Triel's car, a silver Chevrolet Impala, was parked near the drive-thru of a Burger King. The car itself was stained with blood, a grim reminder of the violence that had unfolded just moments earlier. Detective Leach, a woman of unwavering determination, meticulously combed through the vehicle, searching for any clues that could shed light on the identity of the killer. She carefully examined the seats, noting the presence of a small tear in the upholstery, which could potentially be a valuable piece of evidence. Detective Brownlee, known for his keen eye for detail, focused his attention on the exterior of the car, inspecting it for any signs of forced entry or tampering. As the investigation progressed, the detectives discovered a discarded gun near the crime scene. The weapon, a Glock 17, was a popular choice among law enforcement agencies at the time. Its presence raised questions about who the perpetrator could be and what their motive might have been. The detectives carefully bagged the gun, ensuring that it would be preserved as evidence for further analysis. As the investigation unfolded, news of Emily Triel's murder spread throughout the community, sending shockwaves through Greenville and beyond. Local news outlets, such as the Greenville News and WYFF News 4, covered the story extensively, urging anyone with information to come forward and assist the police in their search for justice. Adam Triel, a 36-year-old unemployed accountant, found himself thrust into the spotlight as the prime suspect in the shocking murder of his wife, Emily Triel. The investigation took a chilling turn as detectives delved into the depths of Adam's troubled mind, searching for any clues that could link him to the crime. In the aftermath of the Great Recession, Adam had fallen victim to the economic turmoil that plagued the nation. The loss of his job as an accountant had left him feeling emasculated and overshadowed by his successful wife. Friends and neighbors whispered about the resentment that simmered beneath Adam's calm facade. Detectives Erica Leach and JoJo Brownlee, seasoned professionals with a reputation for their meticulous approach, meticulously combed through Adam's life, searching for any hint of a motive. They discovered a series of incriminating text messages exchanged between Adam and an unknown number, suggesting a secret affair. The detectives traced the number to a burner phone,
a device commonly used by individuals seeking to conceal their illicit activities. Further investigation revealed that Adam had recently taken out a life insurance policy on Emily, a fact that raised eyebrows and fueled suspicions. The policy, worth a staggering $1 million, would have provided Adam with a substantial financial windfall in the event of Emily's untimely demise. The timing of this policy, coinciding with Adam's growing resentment towards his wife's success, raised red flags within the investigative team. As the detectives dug deeper, they uncovered a web of lies and deceit. Adam had been secretly meeting with a divorce attorney, fueling speculation that he was planning to end his marriage and secure a substantial settlement. The motive for murder became increasingly clear. Adam stood to gain financially from Emily's death, and his actions leading up to that fateful September evening hinted at a plan in motion. The investigation continued, with detectives meticulously analyzing surveillance footage from nearby establishments, hoping to catch a glimpse of Adam's movements on the night of the murder. They also interviewed friends and acquaintances, piecing together a timeline of events leading up to Emily's tragic end. Sarah Bezel, a co-worker of Emily Triel, emerged as a person of interest in the perplexing murder investigation. Originally from Pretoria, South Africa, Sarah's ambitious nature and competitive spirit made her a formidable presence in the workplace. However, behind closed doors, her relationship with Emily took a more intimate and sexual turn. Police theorized Sarah's motive for murder could be traced back to the breakup of her torrid affair with Emily. As September of 2009 unfolded, tensions between the two women escalated, fueled by jealousy and a desire for professional advancement. Sarah saw Emily as a rival, a formidable obstacle standing in the way of her own career aspirations. The police had also been diligently investigating the possibility that Sarah manipulated Adam Triel, Emily's husband, into carrying out the heinous act. They explored the theory that Sarah, driven by her desperation to secure a promotion and eliminate her ex-lover, devised a plan to involve Adam in the murder plot. During the interrogation, Sarah maintained a calm facade, skillfully concealing her true intentions behind an empty smile. She denied any involvement in Emily's death, insisting that she had moved on from their tumultuous relationship. However, detectives Erica Leach and Jojo Brownlee remained vigilant, aware of the potential danger lurking beneath Sarah's composed exterior. As the investigation delves deeper into the lives of Sarah and Adam, the detectives uncovered a web of secrets and hidden desires. September of 2009 was a time of great uncertainty, with the lingering effects of the Great Recession casting a shadow over the nation. It was a period when individuals, like Sarah and Adam, found themselves grappling with their own personal frustrations and disappointments. As the investigation unfolded, the detectives were determined to uncover the truth behind Emily Triel's tragic demise. The clock was ticking, and the stakes were high. Would they be able to untangle the web of deceit and betrayal that surrounds this chilling murder? Only time would tell. In the quiet town of Greenville, South Carolina, the Triel family tragedy unfolded like a scene from a primetime crime drama. 14-year-old Lawson Triel found himself at the center of a police investigation that gripped the community. The young teen, known for his curiosity and sometimes intrusive nature, was the son of the victim, Emily Triel, and stepson to the prime suspect, Adam Triel. Lawson, a student at the local middle school, was often seen skateboarding around the neighborhood, headphones on, lost in his own world. His friends described him as a smart kid, always with his nose in a book or working on his latest science project. But beneath the surface, Lawson harbored deep resentment towards his stepfather, Adam, whom he saw as an intruder in the close bond he shared with his mother. During the interrogation, Lawson's demeanor was a mix of teenage defiance and vulnerability. He spoke of his mother with warmth, recalling how she would cheer the loudest at his soccer games and was always there to help with homework. When asked about Adam, Lawson's tone shifted. He described feeling like an outsider when Adam entered their lives, a sentiment that only grew over time. Detectives probed for any sign of Lawson's involvement or knowledge of the crime. They questioned him about the gun found at the scene, but Lawson insisted he had never seen it before. He recounted his last conversation with his mother, a typical exchange about weekend plans and a reminder to do his chores. The interrogation revealed a troubled relationship between Lawson and Adam, but no evidence to suggest Lawson's involvement in the crime. The detectives concluded that the young teen, while troubled by family dynamics, was not capable of such violence. Instead, they turned their attention back to the other suspects, with Adam Triel and Sarah Bezelrand remaining at the forefront of the investigation. As the case unfolded, the community rallied around Lawson, offering support and condolences. The story of the Triel family tragedy served as a stark reminder of the complexities of family relationships and the impact of loss on a small town. Lawson, once a suspect, was now seen as a young boy who had lost his mother too soon, a victim of circumstances beyond his control. In the quiet city of Greenville, South Carolina, the case of Emily Triel's murder had gripped the community with fear and uncertainty. But as the autumn leaves began to turn, signaling the change of seasons in the fall of 2009, a breakthrough emerged in the investigation that would bring a chilling resolution to the mystery. The Greenville Police Department, led by detectives Erica Leach and JoJo Brownlee, had been tirelessly piecing together the puzzle of Emily's untimely death. The evidence, meticulously gathered from the crime scene at the Burger King drive-thru, pointed to one individual, Adam Triel, Emily's own husband. Adam, a 36-year-old unemployed accountant, had found himself jobless amidst the Great Recession, a time when financial turmoil was felt across the nation. His wife's success as a marketing manager only deepened his sense of inadequacy and resentment. It was this toxic mix of jealousy and financial desperation that detectives believe drove Adam to commit the unthinkable. On the fateful night of September 17th, Adam executed his plan. While Emily sat in her car while in line at the Burger King drive-thru, he approached under the cover of darkness and fired 6 shots, ending her life in a matter of seconds. The gun, a .38 caliber revolver, a stark symbol of his guilt, was found discarded near the scene, its serial number traced back to Adam. The detectives, armed with this evidence, confronted Adam during a tense interrogation. He sat across from them, his face a mask of stoic calm, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of panic. As the questions grew more pointed, his facade began to crumble. The evidence was irrefutable, and Adam's silence spoke volumes. On September 28th, Adam Triel's fate was sealed. He was arrested and charged with the murder of Emily Triel. The news of his arrest spread quickly, making headlines in local papers and becoming the talk of the town. As Adam was led away in handcuffs, the community of Greenville breathed a collective sigh of relief. The man who had walked among them, harboring a dark secret, was now behind bars. Emily's family, though still mourning the loss of their vibrant loved one, found solace in the fact that justice was being served. In the fall of 2009, a real-life drama unfolded in Greenville, South Carolina. The trial of Adam Triel, accused of the cold-blooded murder of his wife Emily, shot dead in a Burger King drive-thru, captured the attention of the local community and beyond. The courtroom was tense as prosecutor Zara Mitchell laid out the case against Adam. She painted a picture of a man overwhelmed by jealousy, who meticulously planned the murder of his successful wife to collect her life insurance. The evidence was compelling: financial records, the testimony of co-workers, and the murder weapon linked to Adam. Defense attorney Elodie Campbell fought to create doubt, suggesting that the evidence was circumstantial and that Adam was a loving husband incapable of such a crime. However, the jury was not swayed. They had heard the 911 call, seen the crime scene photos, and now they delivered their verdict: guilty. The decision came down on a day when the MTV Video Music Awards were making headlines, but for the people of Greenville, this local news was far more significant. The courtroom was silent, save for the sound of Emily's family softly crying as the judge pronounced the sentence. Life without parole. Adam Triel's face, once stoic, now showed the gravity of his situation. He had been unmasked not as the quiet, unemployed accountant, but as a murderer driven by envy. The trial, which had been the subject of local news segments and newspaper articles, was over. As the gavel fell, the community reflected on the tragedy. Emily Triel, remembered for her vibrant personality and dedication to her family, had become a symbol of a life taken too soon. The verdict offered closure to some, but for others, it was a reminder of the fragility of life and the depths of human emotion. The case of the state versus Adam Triel would be remembered not just for its outcome, but for the conversations it sparked about love, jealousy, and justice. And as the leaves began to change color,
Signaling the end of November, the people of Greenville would move forward, carrying with them the memory of the trial that had captivated their town. The town of Greenville, South Carolina, was slowly healing from the wounds of a tragedy that had shaken its core. The trial of Adam Triel for the murder of his wife, Emily, had concluded, leaving a community to grapple with the aftermath. Adam Triel, now a convicted murderer, faced a life sentence without the possibility of parole. The verdict, delivered on a day when the Toronto International Film Festival celebrated cinematic achievements, marked the end of his freedom. He was confined to a cell, his only company the ghosts of his past actions. Sarah Bezel, Emily's former lover and co-worker, also faced the consequences of her involvement. Though not convicted, her reputation was tarnished, her career prospects dimmed. She returned to her native South Africa, but whispers followed her every move, her new colleagues viewing her with suspicion and unease. The community of Greenville, once bustling with the excitement of the upcoming football season and the release of new video games, now found itself in a somber state. The local Burger King, the site of Emily's murder, became a grim landmark, a place many avoided, its drive-through a reminder of the night that changed everything. For Lawson, the teenage son left without a mother, life was a series of adjustments. He returned to school, his classmates tiptoeing around the subject of his loss. Football games and school dances were no longer just rites of passage. They were moments tinged with the absence of his mother's cheering presence. The Triel case was a stark reminder of the complexities of human emotions and the consequences of actions driven by jealousy and greed. As Greenville looked to the future, the community held onto the hope that such darkness would never again touch their lives. Greenville, South Carolina, will forever bear the scars of this twisted murder investigation. The tragic death of Emily Triel shattered the illusion of safety in this quiet suburban community. Through the tireless efforts of the police and the resilience of Emily's loved ones, justice was served, but the scars left behind will never truly fade away. This is the story of a beloved teacher's tragic end and how her husband's jealous obsession turned deadly. Dr. Vivian Severn was 42 years old. She lived in Fort Collins, Colorado with her husband, Robert Severn. She was an English professor at a local college and known for her charismatic and engaging teaching style. Vivian was especially passionate about British interwar literature and was a noted expert in the field. She loved her job and was popular among her students, often inviting them to her home overnight to help them with their assignments. Vivian was married to Robert Severn, who owned a chain of laundromats called Clean Spin, which was popular with the local students. Their marriage, however, had been strained recently due to rumors of Vivian's infidelities. Despite this, they had been married for 15 years and shared many happy memories together. Robert, 45, was known for his upright behavior and attention to detail. He was reserved and private, often keeping to himself. Outside of work, Vivian enjoyed hiking in the nearby Rocky Mountain National Park and was an active leader of the Fort Collins Book Club. She had a wide circle of friends and was known for her lively personality and infectious laugh. Vivian's was writing a 700-page book called From Brightest Head to Lehman, Interwar Literature's Role in Historical Erotic Fiction, combining her love for teaching and research. In the days leading up to her death, Vivian was busy grading final papers and preparing for the summer semester while also finishing up her book. She was also planning a hiking trip with her friends to celebrate the end of the school year. Her colleagues noticed that she seemed excited and full of energy, looking forward to the break. She had recently posted on Facebook about a new book she was reading and shared photos from a hiking trip on Instagram. Vivian's students admired her dedication and passion. She often invited them to her office for extra help and encouraged them to discuss their ideas and opinions freely. Her office was filled with books, papers, and photos from her travels, reflecting her love for literature and adventure of all kinds. Vivian's life was full of promise, but beneath the surface, there were tensions and secrets that would soon lead to a tragic end. Her story is a reminder of how even the most seemingly perfect lives can be shattered by jealousy and obsession. On the morning of May 15, 2019, the sun had just risen over Fort Collins, casting a warm glow on the college campus. At around 7:30 a.m., Hank Murphy, a janitor at the college, began his routine cleaning rounds. Hank was a familiar face to everyone on campus, known for his friendly demeanor and dedication to keeping the building spotless. As Hank entered the English department, he noticed that Dr. Vivian Severn's office door was slightly ajar. This was unusual, as Vivian was typically meticulous about locking her door. Curious and concerned, Hank knocked gently but received no response. He pushed the door open and was met with a sight that would haunt him forever. Vivian was slumped over her desk, her body motionless. There were 2 visible gunshot wounds, and blood had cooled around her. Papers and books were scattered across the desk, some stained with blood. The room was eerily silent. Hank's heart raced as he took in the scene. He stumbled backward, nearly dropping his cleaning supplies. After a few seconds of shock, he regained his composure and rushed to the nearest phone to call campus security. His hands trembled as he dialed the number, and his voice shook as he reported the discovery. The campus security officer on duty immediately dispatched a team to Dr. Severn's office and called the local police. Within minutes, the wail of sirens could be heard approaching the campus. When the police arrived, they found Hank sitting on a bench outside the building, his face pale and his eyes wide with shock. The lead investigator approached him, taking note of his distressed state. Hank recounted his discovery, his voice still shaking. He described finding Vivian slumped over the desk with blood all around, and how he had immediately called for help. The news of Dr. Severn's death spread quickly across the campus. Students and faculty were in shock, unable to comprehend the tragedy that had befallen their beloved professor. The local news stations soon picked up the story, briefly noting her death on the nightly newscast. The discovery of Vivian's body marked the beginning of a complex investigation that would uncover dark secrets and lead to an unexpected conclusion. The police arrived quickly after the call from campus security on May 15, 2019. Detective Sarah Lynn Bryant led the team. Known for her keen eye and calm demeanor, she was experienced in handling tough cases. The scene at Dr. Vivian Severn's office was shocking. There were bloodstains on her desk and papers scattered everywhere. The room looked like a chaotic mix of a crime scene and a busy professor's office. The first thing the police did was secure the area, making sure no one could enter or leave. They carefully photographed everything before touching anything. Detective Lynn Bryant and her team looked for clues, starting with the bullet casings. They found 2 casings from a small caliber handgun near Vivian's desk. The trajectory of the shots suggested that the killer was standing close to Vivian when she was shot. The investigators also collected items that might be useful for evidence. They took Vivian's computer or cell phone and several personal items from her desk. Detective Lynn Bryant hoped these items would provide clues about who might have wanted to harm Vivian. Forensics experts were called in to examine the bloodstains and other physical evidence. They took samples to analyze back at the lab. The police also dusted for fingerprints, looking for any that didn't belong to Vivian or the janitor who found her. While the investigation continued inside, other officers started talking to people outside the building. They interviewed students, faculty, and staff, trying to piece together Vivian's last moments. Many people were shocked and confused, unable to believe that such a respected professor could be the victim of such a violent crime. Detective Lynn Bryant also reviewed security camera footage from around the campus. She hoped to spot anyone suspicious entering or leaving the building around the time of the murder. The footage showed some people entering and exiting the building, but nothing immediately suspicious. The police knew they had a tough case ahead. Vivian was well-liked, but the rumors about her personal life meant that there could be many potential suspects. Detective Lynn Bryant and her team prepared to dig deeper into Vivian's life, her relationships, and her secrets. They hoped that by understanding more about her, they could find the person responsible for her death. As the sun set over Fort Collins, the police wrapped up their initial investigation at the crime scene. They had gathered a lot of information, but many questions remained. The investigation was just beginning, and Detective Lynn Bryant knew they had a long road ahead to find justice for Dr. Vivian Severn. The investigation quickly turned to Vivian Severn's husband, Robert Severn, as the primary suspect. Robert, 45, was a successful businessman who owned a chain of laundromats called Clean Spin, which was popular with students in Fort Collins. Despite his professional success, Robert was known to be reserved and private. Friends and family had noticed his increasing jealousy and obsession over rumors of Vivian's infidelities. This made him an immediate person of interest for the police. On the evening of May 16, 2019, Robert was brought in for questioning at the Fort Collins police station. Detective Sarah Lynn Bryant led the interrogation. Robert appeared calm, but there was a tense air about him. The detective started by asking Robert about his relationship with Vivian. He admitted that their marriage had been strained due to the rumors about her affairs with students. Robert provided an alibi, stating that he was at home the night of Vivian's murder, working on financial reports for Clean Spin. However, when asked if anyone could confirm his alibi, Robert struggled to provide a solid witness. This raised more suspicions among the detectives. During the interrogation, Robert's demeanor shifted. He became defensive when the detectives pressed him about his whereabouts and his feelings about Vivian's alleged affairs. He repeatedly denied having any involvement in her death, but his evasive answers only made the detectives more suspicious. The police also looked into Robert's financial records and phone logs. They found several calls and texts between Robert and Vivian in the days leading up to her death, many of which were heated arguments about the rumors. This added to the detectives' theory that Robert's jealousy and obsession could have driven him to commit the crime. Detective Line Bryant and her team continued to press Robert for more information, hoping to find inconsistencies in his story. They also searched the Severn home for any evidence that might link Robert to the crime. They found a handgun that matched the caliber of the bullets used in Vivian's murder. This was a significant piece of evidence, but it wasn't enough to make an arrest without further proof linking Robert to the actual shooting. While the police continued to investigate other leads, Robert remained a key suspect. His behavior, the strained marriage, and the discovery of the handgun all pointed towards him. However, the detectives knew they needed more concrete evidence to make an arrest. The investigation was far from over, and the police were determined to find justice for Dr. Vivian Severn. On May 18, 2019, a clear and sunny day in Fort Collins, a significant piece of evidence surfaced. Around 10:00 a.m., campus security found a flash drive in the parking lot near the English department. It had fallen out of a backpack left behind by one of Dr. Vivian Severn's students. The flash drive was quickly handed over to the police for investigation. Detective Sarah Len Bryant and her team examined the contents of the flash drive. To their shock, they found dozens of videos of Dr. Vivian Severn engaging in sexual activities with students both in her office and at her home. These videos confirmed the rumors about Vivian's infidelities and added a new layer to the case. It appeared that Vivian had been sexually involved in relationships with her entire class, way beyond professional boundaries. The police analyzed the videos for clues about the murder. They looked at timestamps, locations, and other details that might help identify who had access to the footage and who could have a motive for murder. The most recent video, recorded just hours before Vivian's death, showing her in a threesome with a pair of twins, Tanner and Laney Taylor, who were two of Vivian's top students. The police also traced the origin of the videos. They discovered that the recordings had been made using a hidden cameras in Vivian's office as well as in her bedroom and bathroom of her house. The detectives expanded their investigation to include anyone who might have had access to Vivian's office and home. As the investigation continued, Detective Line Bryant's team analyzed the digital data from the flash drive. They looked for fingerprints, checked the metadata of the files, and searched for any connections to other suspects. This new evidence complicated the case, revealing that Vivian's relationships were even more tangled than initially thought. The videos provided a clearer motive for the murder: jealousy and revenge. With the flash drive's discovery, the police had a critical piece of the puzzle. It suggested that the killer was someone who knew about Vivian's secret life and was deeply affected by it. The investigation was becoming more complex, but they were determined to follow every lead. The new evidence pointed police towards a network of relationships and secrets that could unravel the mystery behind Vivian's tragic death. The police turned their attention to Tanner and Laney Taylor. Tanner and Laney were 19-year-old twins and two of Dr. Vivian Severn's top students. Known for their charm and good looks, they were often seen together around campus. Several videos on the flash drive showed them both having sex with Vivian, raising suspicions about their involvement in her death. On May 19, 2019, the police brought Tanner and Laney in for questioning. Detective Sarah Len Bryant led the interrogation. Tanner and Laney seemed nervous but cooperative. They admitted to having a sexual relationship with Vivian, often spending extra time in her office under the pretense of needing academic help because they had dyslexia. They also claimed that their sexual relationship with Vivian was necessary, because in Vivian's class sexual performance made up 80% of the grade. The police asked the twins about their whereabouts on the night of Vivian's death. Tanner said he was studying at the library, while Laney said she was at a friend's house. The police checked their alibis, but neither could be confirmed with certainty. This made the detectives more suspicious of the twins. The police also looked into the Taylors' backgrounds. They were well-liked by their peers and had no history of violence or criminal activity. However, their close relationship with Vivian and the videos on the flash drive made them key suspects. Detective Line Bryant and her team searched the twins' dorm room for any evidence linking them to the murder. They found several items belonging to Vivian, including a book and a scarf, which raised further questions about their relationship. However, they did not find any direct evidence linking the twins to the murder weapon or the crime scene. The police also analyzed the digital data from the flash drive to see if Tanner or Laney had accessed it. The results were inconclusive, as the flash drive had been used by multiple devices. This made it difficult to determine who had planted the hidden camera in Vivian's office. Throughout the investigation, Tanner and Laney maintained their innocence. They expressed shock and sadness over Vivian's death and insisted they had nothing to do with it. Despite their denials, the police continued to consider them key suspects due to their close relationship with Vivian and their presence in the incriminating videos. As the investigation continued, Detective Line Bryant and her team knew they had to find more concrete evidence to either prove or disprove the twins' involvement in Vivian's murder. The case was becoming more complicated, and the police were determined to follow every lead to find justice for Dr. Vivian Severn. With the investigation still open, the police turned their attention to Dr. Jonathan Brooks. Dr. Brooks was a 50-year-old professor specializing in ancient Phoenician history. Known for his strict demeanor and high academic standards, he had a reputation for being difficult to work with. Despite this, his dedication to his field was undeniable. There were rumors of a professional rivalry between Jonathan and Vivian, and some even suggested they had once been romantically involved. On May 20, 2019, the police brought Dr. Brooks in for questioning. Detective Sarah Len Bryant led the interrogation. Dr. Brooks was calm and cooperative, although he seemed slightly irritated by the situation. He admitted to having a professional rivalry with Vivian, but he denied any romantic involvement. He described their relationship as strictly academic and very competitive. When asked about his whereabouts on the night of Vivian's murder, Dr. Brooks said he was at home grading papers. He provided a list of students whose work he had graded, but this alibi was hard to verify. The police noted his irritation, but continued to press him for more information. Dr. Brooks revealed that he and Vivian had been engaged in a strange competition, seeing who could have sex with more students during the school year. He said it was all in good fun and claimed he was serious about it, but not enough to kill her. However, the police found this revelation extremely disturbing and considered it a possible motive. If, as he said, Vivian had won the competition shortly before her death, it could have created tension between them. The police also searched Dr. Brooks' office and home for any evidence linking him to the murder. They found several personal items belonging to Vivian, including a pen and a notebook. However, these items were not enough to directly link him to the crime. They did not find any weapons or anything that would suggest he was involved in her death. As the investigation continued, the police looked into Dr. Brooks' digital activities. They examined his emails and social media for any signs of animosity towards Vivian. They found a few heated exchanges about academic matters, but nothing that pointed to a motive for murder. Throughout the interrogation, Dr. Brooks maintained his innocence. He expressed shock and sadness over Vivian's death and insisted he had nothing to do with it. Despite his cooperation, the police remained suspicious due to his rivalry with Vivian and the strange competition they have been engaged in. Detective Line Bryant and her team knew they had to find more concrete evidence to either prove or disprove Dr. Brooks' involvement in Vivian's murder. The case was becoming increasingly complex, and the police were determined to follow every lead to find justice for Dr. Vivian Severn. On May 22, 2019, the police received a breakthrough in the case. They discovered new evidence that pointed directly to Robert Severn, Vivian's husband. The evidence came from a detailed analysis of the flash drive found earlier. Hidden in the metadata of one of the videos was a timestamp showing that Robert had accessed the files an hour and a half before Vivian's murder. Detective Sarah Len Bryant and her team pieced together the timeline. Robert's obsession with Vivian's affairs had reached a boiling point. He found out about the sexual relationships with all of her students and felt humiliated and betrayed. The night of the murder, he traveled to Vivian's office to confront her. In a fit of rage, he shot her twice with a handgun he took from their home. The police had enough evidence to arrest Robert. On the morning of May 23, 2019, they arrived at his house. Robert was in the living room, looking anxious. When the police told him he was under arrest for the murder of his wife, he did not resist. He seemed resigned, as if he had been expecting this moment. Robert's arrest shocked the community. Vivian's colleagues and students were stunned to learn that her husband was the killer. Many had suspected him, but the confirmation was still hard to accept. The Severn family was devastated. They had hoped that Robert was innocent and were now grappling with the reality of his actions. During the interrogation, Robert confessed to the crime. He explained how he had been driven to madness by Vivian's betrayals. He couldn't stand the thought of her having sex with all of her students, and in a moment of uncontrollable anger, he killed her. Robert's confession was detailed and left no doubt about his guilt. Vivian's family had mixed reactions to Robert's arrest. They were relieved that the killer had been caught, but the pain of losing Vivian was still fresh. They struggled with the idea that someone so close to her could have committed such a horrific act. The community of Fort Collins also reacted with a mix of relief and sadness. Many people gathered to support Vivian's family during this difficult time. The police wrapped up the investigation. Having found the murderer, they have followed every lead and piece of evidence to bring justice for Dr. Vivian Severn. The case was closed, but the impact of the tragedy would linger in the hearts of those who knew her. As Robert awaited trial, the town of Fort Collins began to heal. The community came together to remember Vivian's contributions and the positive impact she had on her students and colleagues. Her legacy would live on, even as they dealt with the painful truth about her death. In January 2022, delayed by the COVID-19 pandemic, the trial of Robert Severn finally began at the Larimer County Courthouse in Fort Collins, Colorado. The courtroom was packed with media, family members, and curious locals. The prosecution was led by District Attorney and Bay Area transplant Tabitha Quasimodo, known for her meticulous approach and determination to seek justice. Quasimodo presented a strong case against Robert, detailing his motive, opportunity, and the digital evidence that linked him to Vivian's murder. Quasimodo argued that Robert's jealousy and obsession with Vivian's infidelities drove him to commit the crime. He called several witnesses to the stand, including detectives who worked on the case and experts who explained the metadata from the flash drive. The prosecution painted a clear picture of a man pushed to his breaking point by his wife's actions. The defense was handled by Robert's attorney, Lisa Martin, a 38-year-old with a reputation for being a tough and clever lawyer. Martin argued that Robert had been under immense emotional stress and had not acted with premeditation. She tried to cast doubt on the reliability of the digital evidence and suggested that someone else could have planted it to frame Robert. Throughout the trial, Vivian's family watched with heavy hearts. They were torn between their love for Robert and their need for justice for Vivian. The emotional toll was evident as they listened to the graphic details of the case and the arguments from both sides. The trial lasted for 3 weeks with intense media coverage and daily updates in local newspapers and on news channels like NBC and CNN. On February 4, 2022, the jury reached a verdict.
The courtroom was silent as the foreperson announced that Robert Severn was found guilty of first-degree murder. The judge sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The verdict brought a mix of relief and sorrow to Vivian's family. They were glad that justice had been served, but devastated by the loss of both Vivian and Robert. The community of Fort Collins reacted with a sense of closure. Many felt that the trial had revealed the deep complexities and dark secrets behind Vivian's seemingly perfect life. The case had sparked conversations about relationships, mental health, and the pressures faced by individuals in both personal and professional spheres. In the weeks following the verdict, Vivian's friends and colleagues held a memorial service to honor her memory. They focused on her contributions to the academic community and her positive impact on her students. The service was a reminder of the bright, dedicated person she was, despite the tragic circumstances of her death. As Robert began his life sentence, the Severn family struggled to move forward. The trial had taken a toll on everyone involved, but they hoped to find some peace in knowing that justice had been served for Vivian. After Robert Severn was sentenced to life in prison in February 2022, life slowly began to return to normal in Fort Collins. The community, shaken by the tragic events, started to heal. Dr. Vivian Severn's family faced the difficult task of moving on without her. They continued to honor her memory by setting up a scholarship fund for students studying literature, ensuring her legacy lived on. Vivian's colleagues at the university found it hard to return to their daily routines. Many of them attended counseling sessions to cope with the loss and the shocking revelations of the case. The English department, where Vivian had taught, dedicated a reading room in her name and worked together to finish and publish her book.
From Brideshead to Lehman. Interwar literature's role in historical erotic fiction. Robert Severn began serving his life sentence in the Colorado State Penitentiary. He spent his days in solitary confinement, reflecting on his actions. The media coverage of the trial and his imprisonment continued to follow him, but over time, public interest waned. His friends and remaining family members visited him occasionally, but the visits became less frequent as the months passed. Tanner and Laney Taylor, the students involved in the scandal, struggled with the aftermath of the trial. They faced backlash from their peers and the community. Despite their involvement being revealed, they tried to continue their studies. Both received counseling to help them deal with the trauma and the intense scrutiny they faced. Over time, they managed to rebuild their lives, but the events left a lasting impact on them. Dr. Jonathan Brooks, who had been a suspect in the investigation, returned to his teaching position. Although cleared of any wrongdoing in Vivian's murder, his reputation had taken a hit. He focused on his work, distancing himself from the scandal as much as possible. His colleagues were supportive, but the shadow of the events lingered. Detective Sarah Lynn Bryant and her team were commended for their work in solving the case. They continued to serve the Fort Collins community, using the experience to handle future cases with even greater care and precision. The department implemented new training programs to better handle sensitive cases involving personal relationships and digital evidence. The Fort Collins community, though scared by the events, grew closer. People became more aware of the pressures and mental health issues faced by those around them. Local organizations and schools started offering more support services, aiming to prevent such tragedies in the future. The tragic death of Dr. Vivian Severn revealed a complex web of secrets and lies, ultimately driven by jealousy and obsession. Today, we explore the life and tragic death of a stay-at-home mom who found herself at the center of a tangled web of secrets, desires, and betrayal, a web that ultimately led to her untimely demise. Tina Boland was a 42-year-old stay-at-home mom who lived in Rio Rancho, New Mexico. She was well known in her community as a friendly and sociable woman who was always willing to lend a helping hand. Tina was the kind of neighbor who remembered birthdays, organized block parties, and never missed a chance to volunteer at her children's school events. She lived with her husband, Michael Boland, a 46-year-old insurance agent, and their two teenage children aged 16 and 15. In April 2014, Tina was at the peak of her involvement in the neighborhood. Tina was often seen driving her kids to practice in her blue Honda Odyssey, stopping by the local Starbucks for a caramel macchiato on the way. She was also active in her church, where she helped coordinate charity drives and bake sales. But Tina's life had another side, one that few knew about. Beneath her outward appearance as a devoted wife and mother, Tina was involved in a series of secret sexual relationships with other women in her community. These relationships were kept hidden from her family and most of her other friends. Tina was the belle of the ball in this secret circle, engaging in passionate sexual affairs with approximately a half-dozen other stay-at-home moms in her neighborhood. She enjoyed the thrill of these relationships, which gave her a sense of excitement and freedom that she didn't find in her bland suburban life. In the days leading up to her death, Tina was particularly excited about her new relationship with Hope Johnson, a 45-year-old woman who had recently moved into the neighborhood. Tina's friends noticed that she seemed happier than usual, but they had no idea of the secret life she was living. This hidden world, filled with desire and jealousy, would soon lead to a tragedy that would shock the entire community. On the morning of April 15, 2014, at approximately 8:30 a.m., Tina Boland's lifeless body was discovered at the bottom of the stairs in her home in Rio Rancho of New Mexico. It was a typical spring morning, with the sun shining brightly and the sound of birds chirping in the trees outside. The discovery was made by Lisa DeAngeles, Tina's close friend and neighbor, who had come over after not receiving any responses to her text and calls the night before. Lisa and Tina had a strong bond, often meeting up at the local Panera Bread for coffee and catching up on the latest gossip. That morning, when Lisa arrived at Tina's house, she noticed that the front door was slightly ajar. Concerned, she called out Tina's name as she stepped inside, but there was no response. As she walked further into the house, her heart began to race. The house was eerily quiet, with the faint sound of the TV playing in the background. When Lisa reached the staircase, she was met with a sight that would haunt her forever. Tina was lying at the bottom of the stairs, her body twisted in an unnatural position. She was wearing a light blue nightgown, and her hair was matted with blood from a cut on her lip. Lisa froze in shock, her mind racing to make sense of what she was seeing. After a few moments, Lisa snapped out of her daze and frantically dialed 911. Her voice trembled as she spoke to the operator, trying to explain what she had found. The 911 operator remained calm, asking Lisa to stay on the line until help arrived. Lisa could hardly keep her composure as she paced back and forth, her eyes never leaving Tina's motionless body. Within minutes, the sound of sirens filled the air as emergency responders arrived at the scene. Lisa was visibly shaken as paramedics rushed into the house. She stepped aside to let them work, her hands trembling as she watched them assess Tina's condition. Despite their efforts, it was clear that Tina was already gone. The paramedics confirmed that Tina was dead, and Lisa collapsed into a chair, tears streaming down her face. The tragedy of Tina Boland's death had just begun to unfold, leaving a community in shock and searching for answers. The Rio Rancho Police Department arrived quickly at Tina Boland's home on April 15, 2014, around 8:45 a.m., just minutes after Lisa DeAngeles called 911. The first officers on the scene were Detective Martina Lopez, a seasoned investigator known for her sharp instincts, and Officer James Carson, a young patrolman with 2 years on the force. As they entered the house, they were met with the unsettling sight of Tina's body at the bottom of the stairs. Detective Lopez immediately took charge, instructing Officer Carson to secure the scene and make sure no one else entered the home. The staircase where Tina was found was carpeted with beige walls that showed no signs of a struggle. Tina's body was lying in a twisted position, her head turned awkwardly to the side. A small pool of blood had formed under her head, but the scene was relatively clean, with no obvious signs of a violent altercation. The detective carefully examined the area around Tina's body. The staircase was steep, with wooden railings that seemed solid and well-maintained. Lopez noted that Tina was barefoot, and there was a noticeable absence of anything that could have caused her to trip. The nightgown Tina was wearing was slightly torn at the hem, but there were no visible signs of a fight. As she continued her inspection, Lopez's eyes were drawn to a few details that seemed out of place. Tina's phone was found halfway down the stairs, its screen cracked, as if it had been dropped during a fall. But there was something odd about the position of Tina's body. It didn't match the typical pattern seen in accidental falls. The angle at which she had landed raised immediate red flags for the detective. The paramedics who had already confirmed Tina's death stepped back as the police continued their investigation. Detective Lopez ordered a full forensic sweep of the house. She wanted to ensure that every possible piece of evidence was collected. Bettine used luminol to check for any hidden traces of blood, and fingerprint powder was dusted on the stair railings and nearby surfaces. As Lopez observed the scene, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this than met the eye. Her instincts told her that Tina's death might not be the tragic accident it first appeared to be. The lack of defensive wounds, the strange position of the body, and the eerie stillness of the house all pointed to something more sinister. With this in mind, the investigation would move forward with a closer look at those closest to Tina, beginning with her husband and her friends. Lisa DeAngeles, 39, was the first person police turned to in their investigation. Known in the neighborhood as a nurturing and caring individual, Lisa had a reputation for being a devoted friend, especially to Tina Boland. They were often seen together at local spots like Panera Bread, and their children played together frequently. But as the police began to dig deeper, they uncovered a relationship between Lisa and Tina that went far beyond friendship. During her initial interrogation, Lisa appeared shaken but cooperative. Detective Martina Lopez, who was leading the investigation, noted Lisa's nervousness. She fidgeted constantly, her hands trembling as she answered questions. At first, Lisa described her friendship with Tina in typical terms, talking about their shared activities and the closeness they had developed over the years. However, as the questioning continued, it became clear that there was much more to their relationship. Under pressure, Lisa admitted that she and Tina had been involved in a secret sexual relationship for several months. The revelation stunned the detectives. Lisa described the relationship as passionate but complicated. Tina had confided in her, revealing that she was unhappy in her marriage and found comfort and excitement in their affair, and that Lisa made her feel like, quote, a Disney princess. But recently, things had taken a turn for the worse. Lisa explained that Tina had started to pull away from her, becoming increasingly distant. Tina had met a new neighbor, Hope Johnson, and had quickly developed a sexual relationship with her. Lisa confessed that she felt jealous and hurt, and she and Tina had argued about it several times, especially after Lisa had caught Hope and Tina having sex in her daughter's bed.
Just a few days before Tina's death, Lisa had confronted her, telling Tina that she couldn't continue their relationship as she was seeing someone else. The police were intrigued by Lisa's admission. Jealousy was a powerful motive, and Lisa's emotional state raised suspicions. But when asked directly if she had anything to do with Tina's death, Lisa firmly denied it. She claimed that their argument was heated, but not violent. According to Lisa, she left Tina's house that evening upset, but never imagined it would be the last time she saw her friend alive. Lisa's interrogation left detectives with more questions than answers. Her jealousy was evident, and her connection to Tina placed her squarely under the microscope. But without concrete evidence, they couldn't make an arrest. The investigation would have to continue, with detectives looking closely at the other people in Tina's life who might have had a reason to harm her. Hope Johnson, 45, was the second person the police turned to in their investigation. Hope had recently moved to Rio Rancho from Atlanta, Georgia, just 6 months prior to Tina Boland's death. On the surface, Hope appeared to be a polished and professional woman. She was a real estate agent known for her sharp business acumen and poised demeanor. Her arrival in the neighborhood had caused a bit of a stir, with many of the local moms curious about the new resident. Hope's relationship with Tina had developed quickly. Neighbors noticed that the two women were often together, sharing private moments at local spots like the Starbucks on Southern Boulevard. They frequently texted each other, and there were whispers that their relationship might be more than just friendship. When Detective Martina Lopez questioned Hope, she maintained a calm and composed exterior, but there was an underlying tension that the detective couldn't ignore. Hope initially downplayed her relationship with Tina, describing it as a friendly connection formed through shared interests and neighborhood activities. However, when pressed, Hope admitted that their relationship had become intimate. Hope described Tina as someone who was charming and fun to be around, but also very persistent. She claimed that Tina had made the first move, DM her naked pictures, and suggesting they take their friendship to, quote, a place beyond your wildest dreams. At first, Hope was hesitant, knowing that Tina was married, but eventually, she gave in to the excitement of their secret affair. Despite the close bond they shared, Hope insisted that she had no reason to harm Tina. She revealed that Tina had recently begun expressing more serious feelings for her, even hinting at leaving her husband, Michael, to be with her. But this level of commitment made Hope uncomfortable. She had only just settled into the neighborhood and was dealing with her own marital issues. The last thing she wanted was to be entangled in a scandal. Hope's calm demeanor began to crack when detectives asked about the night of Tina's death. Hope claimed she was at home with her husband, but there was something in her voice that made the detectives doubt her story. Text messages retrieved from Tina's phone showed that Hope and Tina had been in contact late into the evening, and some of the messages suggested tension between them. There were even videos of the two having sex, which Hope had shared with other soccer moms in a way that flaunted their relationship. Though Hope denied any involvement in Tina's death, her connection to the victim and the underlying jealousy she harbored made her a key suspect in the investigation. The police would need more evidence to either confirm or clear her of suspicion. Michael Boland, 46, was the third person the police focused on in their investigation. As Tina Boland's husband, Michael was naturally a person of interest. Michael worked as an insurance agent, a job that kept him busy and often on the road. Neighbors described him as a quiet and somewhat distant figure, rarely seen at community events or social gatherings. He seemed to prefer spending his time away from home. And it was common knowledge that his relationship with Tina had been strained for years. When Detective Martina Lopez and her team interviewed Michael, he appeared stoic and detached, a stark contrast to the emotional turmoil surrounding Tina's death. He admitted that his marriage to Tina had been rocky for some time. They had grown apart, with Michael spending more and more time on business trips or simply avoiding being at home. "I needed to get away from that awful woman," Michael said during the interview, his words carrying a bitterness that raised red flags for the detectives. Michael claimed he had no idea about Tina's secret sexual relationships with other women. He insisted that he was completely unaware of her affair with Lisa DeAngeles and was shocked to learn about her involvement with Hope Johnson. However, the detectives couldn't help but wonder if Michael's ignorance was genuine or if he was hiding something. The night of Tina's death, Michael told the police he had been out of town on a business trip in Los Angeles. He provided the names of colleagues who could verify his whereabouts, and at first glance, his alibi seemed solid. But there was something about Michael's demeanor that didn't sit right with the detectives. He was too calm, too measured,
and his lack of visible grief made them suspicious. The investigation into Michael's possible motive revealed that he had a lot to lose if his marriage to Tina ended in divorce. Tina had inherited a significant amount of money from her parents, and if they divorced, Michael would likely lose access to that wealth. Moreover, there were rumors that Michael had been seeing other women and even some men during his frequent business trips, adding another layer of complexity to the case. Despite a strong alibi, Michael remained on the police's radar. His distant relationship with Tina, his financial concerns, and his possible infidelity all pointed to a potential motive. The detectives knew they needed to dig deeper into Michael's life and alibi before they could rule him out as a suspect. On April 18, 2014, 3 days after Tina Boland's death, a significant breakthrough came in the form of new evidence. It was a cool, overcast morning in Rio Rancho, and Detective Martina Lopez was reviewing the case files when she received a call from the forensic team. They had discovered something unusual in Tina's home, a small but telling detail that had initially been overlooked. The new evidence was a scuff mark on the wall near the bottom of the stairs where Tina had been found. The mark was faint, but it suggested that something, or someone, had made contact with the wall during the fall. Forensic experts used advanced techniques, including 3D imaging, to analyze the mark. They concluded that it was consistent with the sole of a shoe, indicating that Tina might have been pushed or tripped rather than having fallen accidentally. This discovery was a turning point in the investigation. The scuff mark suggested foul play, and Detective Lopez knew they had to revisit the crime scene with fresh eyes. The forensic team also found traces of skin cells under Tina's fingernails, which were sent to the lab for DNA analysis. This led the police to consider that Tina might have fought back against her attacker. With this new evidence, the detectives intensified their focus on the 3 main suspects: Lisa DeAngeles, Hope Johnson, and Michael Boland. They brought each of them back in for further questioning, this time armed with the knowledge that Tina's death was likely no accident. The discovery of the scuff mark and the DNA evidence under Tina's nails suggested that she had struggled with someone before her fatal fall. The police also re-examined the text messages on Tina's phone, paying closer attention to the exchanges she had with Lisa and Hope in the hours leading up to her death. The messages hinted at tension and jealousy, particularly between Tina and Lisa. These messages, combined with the new physical evidence, pointed to a possible confrontation. As the investigation progressed, Detective Lopez felt they were closing in on the truth. The new evidence gave the team a clearer picture of what might have happened that night. Tina's death was beginning to look less like a tragic accident and more like the result of a heated altercation. The police were determined to find out who was responsible, knowing that the scuff mark on the wall and the DNA under Tina's nails could be the key to solving the case. On April 20, 2014, the investigation into Tina Boland's death took a decisive turn. The DNA analysis from the skin cells found under Tina's fingernails came back with a match: Lisa DeAngeles. This discovery, combined with the scuff mark on the wall near the stairs, led Detective Martina Lopez to believe that Tina's death was not an accident, but a homicide. Lisa DeAngeles, 39, was a stay-at-home mom known for her nurturing personality. However, beneath her calm exterior, she harbored deep insecurities and fears of losing the people she loved. Tina Boland was at the center of these fears. While their sexual relationship had been the most passionate one of their lives, it was also fraught with jealousy and tension. When Tina started having sex with her new neighbor, Hope Johnson, Lisa felt threatened and betrayed. On the night of April 15, 2014, Tina and Lisa had a heated argument at Tina's home after Lisa caught Hope and Tina having sex. The argument escalated quickly, with emotions running high. Lisa, in a fit of jealousy and desperation, pushed Tina during the argument. The push caused Tina to lose her balance and fall down the stairs, hitting her head on the way down. The scuff mark on the wall was from Tina's shoe as she tried to regain her balance. The detectives pieced together that Tina had fought back, scratching Lisa in the process, which explained the skin cells under Tina's nails. After realizing what had happened, Lisa panicked. She left the scene, hoping the fall would be ruled an accident, but the physical evidence told a different story. On the morning of April 21, 2014, the police moved to arrest Lisa DeAngeles. Detective Lopez, along with a team of officers, arrived at Lisa's home. Lisa was visibly shaken when the police informed her that she was under arrest for the murder of Tina Boland. She didn't resist but appeared in shock, as if the reality of her actions had only just hit her. As she was led away in handcuffs, Lisa muttered that she never meant to hurt Tina. She just wanted her back. The arrest sent shockwaves through the neighborhood. Tina's family, especially her husband Michael, was devastated by the news. They had lost a wife and mother, and now they had to come to terms with the fact that her death was the result of a senseless act of jealousy. Michael, who had been cleared of any wrongdoing, expressed his disbelief that someone so close to Tina could do something so terrible. The trial of Lisa DeAngeles for the murder of Tina Boland began in late October 2014 at the Sandoval County Courthouse. The case had garnered significant media attention, with local news outlets like KRQE and the Albuquerque Journal covering every development. The courtroom was packed with spectators, including many of Tina's friends and family members who were eager to see justice served. The prosecution was led by Assistant District Attorney James Wallace, a 45-year-old seasoned prosecutor known for his tenacity in the courtroom. Wallace argued that Lisa DeAngeles had acted out of intense jealousy, leading her to push Tina down the stairs during a heated argument. He presented the physical evidence, including the scuff mark on the wall and the DNA analysis of the skin cells found under Tina's fingernails. Wallace emphasized that Tina's death was not an accident, but the result of a deliberate act of violence. On the other side, the defense was handled by public defender Karen Michalowski, a 38-year-old attorney known for a compassionate approach to her clients. Michalowski argued that Lisa's actions were not premeditated and that the push was a result of an emotional outburst rather than an intent to kill. She portrayed Lisa as a woman who was deeply in love with Tina and had simply lost control in a moment of overwhelming emotion. Michalowski pleaded with the jury to consider Lisa's remorse and the fact that she had no prior history of violence. Throughout the trial, Tina's family watched with a mix of grief and anger. Michael Boland, Tina's husband, struggled to hold back tears as he listened to the details of his wife's final moments. The impact of Tina's death on her family was clear, and their presence in the courtroom served as a reminder of the real human cost of the crime. After several days of testimony and evidence presentation, the jury deliberated for only a few hours before returning with a verdict. On November 3, 2014, Lisa DeAngeles was found guilty of second-degree murder. The judge sentenced her to 20 years in prison, a sentence that many in the courtroom felt was too lenient given the circumstances. The verdict brought some closure to Tina's family, but the pain of losing her would never fully heal. For Lisa, the sentence marked the beginning of a long journey of reflection and regret. The trial and its outcome left a lasting impact on the Rio Rancho community, a stark reminder of how quickly love can turn to tragedy. After the trial, life in Rio Rancho slowly returned to normal, but the community was forever changed by the events surrounding Tina Boland's death. For Tina's family, the aftermath was a mix of sorrow and adjustment. Michael Boland, now a single parent, focused on rebuilding his life and caring for his children. He continued working as an insurance agent, but his once quiet demeanor became even more reserved. Michael found solace in his work and spending time with his children, who were struggling to cope with the loss of their mother. Lisa DeAngeles, after being convicted of second-degree murder, began serving her 20-year sentence at the New Mexico Women's Correctional Facility. Her life in prison was marked by isolation and reflection. The once active community member now faced a daily routine behind bars. Lisa's trial and conviction were covered extensively by local news outlets like KRQE, and her case became a cautionary tale about the consequences of unchecked jealousy and emotional turmoil. For Hope Johnson, the new neighbor who had been a suspect in the case, life went on with a mixture of relief and continued anxiety. She moved away from Rio Rancho shortly after the trial concluded, seeking a fresh start in a new city. Her reputation in the neighborhood had been tarnished, despite being cleared of any wrongdoing, and she felt it was best to leave behind the memories of the past year. The impact of Tina Boland's death and Lisa DeAngeles' trial extended beyond the immediate circle of those involved. It served as a sobering reminder of how personal relationships and emotional conflicts can escalate into devastating outcomes. The case highlighted the importance of addressing and managing emotional issues before they spiral out of control, leaving a lasting mark on the community and those who lived through it. In the heart of Oklahoma City, Joanna Wrangle, 56, lived the life that seemed like it came straight out of a movie. As the heir to a vast oil and gas fortune, Joanna was a well-known figure in the city's high society. With a history of attending prestigious schools, she was not only wealthy but also well-educated and respected. Joanna was married to Frank H. Wrangle, a powerful state senator, making them one of the most influential couples in Oklahoma. They had children who looked up to their mother as a role model. Joanna's personality was as bright as the Oklahoma sun. She was known for her kindness, her love for her family, and her passion for the ranch life that was part of her family's heritage. Apart from managing her family's estate, she was deeply involved in charity work, always looking to give back to her community. In the days leading up to her untimely death in January 2000, Joanna was full of dreams and plans. With the new millennium, the world buzzed with excitement, and people everywhere were talking about the Y2K bug scare that turned out to be a false alarm. Amidst this, Joanna was planning to rejuvenate her appearance with a facelift. She hoped this would help her step confidently into the new decade, continuing her public and private duties with renewed vigor. Little did anyone know, this decision would lead to a tragic turn of events that would shock the community and leave a lasting impact on her family and friends. On the morning of January 15, 2000, Oklahoma City was draped in a blanket of gray clouds, setting a somber mood across the town. It was on this chilly winter day that the unexpected tragedy of Joanna Wrangle unfolded within the sterile walls of a renowned private clinic, a place where the elite of Oklahoma City often turned to in pursuit of perfection. Joanna, a prominent figure in the city's social circles, had scheduled a facelift surgery, aiming to start the new millennium with renewed confidence. However, what was supposed to be a routine procedure turned fatal. Joanna's life came to an abrupt end on the operating table, leaving behind a wave of disbelief and sorrow. The grim discovery was made by the surgical team itself, led by Dr. Jonathan Humston, the clinic's top surgeon. The atmosphere in the operating room shifted from professional calm to chaotic distress as the team realized Joanna could not be revived. Among them was Angie Ruth Niles, a young nurse who found herself in a situation no medical professional ever hopes to face. Despite their extensive training, nothing could have prepared them for the shock and immediate grief of losing a patient in such circumstances. Word of Joanna's death quickly spread beyond the clinic's walls, casting a shadow over the city. The community, still buzzing from the recent New Year's celebrations and the global sigh of relief that the Y2K bug had been a non-event, was now mourning the loss of one of its most beloved figures. Joanna's death, occurring in a place where she sought to enhance her beauty, added a tragic irony to her passing and left the city in search of answers. Shortly after the tragic news of Joanna Wrangle's death during surgery broke out on that overcast January morning in 2000, Oklahoma City police swiftly arrived at the private clinic. The clinic, known for its exclusive clientele and top-notch services, had suddenly become the center of a grim investigation. Leading the investigation were Detective Mickey Larson and his partner, Detective Sarah Gumbert. Both were experienced officers, but the nature of this case was unlike any they had encountered before. The crime scene was not what they typically faced. There were no signs of a struggle or violence. Instead, they stepped into a high-tech operating room, where the only evidence of something gone wrong was the medical equipment and the lifeless body of Joanna Wrangle. Detective Larson, known for his methodical approach, immediately began documenting the scene, taking notes on everything from the arrangement of surgical tools to the settings on the medical monitors. Detective Gumbert, on the other hand, focused on interviewing the shocked staff, trying to piece together the timeline of events. Their objective was clear: to understand how a routine cosmetic surgery could turn fatal. The police collected various items for analysis, including syringes, vials of medication, and the records of the anesthesia machine. Every piece of evidence was handled with care, knowing that any could hold the key to unraveling the mystery of Joanna's death. As news vans from local stations like K4 and KWEV crowded the clinic's parking lot, the police continued their meticulous work inside. The investigation into Joanna Wrangle's death promised to be a high-profile case, with every detail scrutinized by both the authorities and the public. In the wake of Joanna Wrangle's unexpected death, the focus of the Oklahoma City police investigation quickly turned to Dr. Jonathan Humston, age 48. As the surgeon who performed Joanna's facelift, Dr. Humston was at the center of the tragic event. Known as Oklahoma City's premier plastic surgeon, he was a familiar face in the same high society circles as Joanna. However, rumors had been swirling about his struggles with alcohol, casting a shadow over his professional reputation. Dr. Humston's background was impressive. He had attended some of the most prestigious medical schools in the country and had built a successful practice in Oklahoma City. His dreams were as big as his achievements. He aspired to be recognized as one of the best plastic surgeons nationwide. But beneath the surface of his professional success, there were whispers about the pressure he faced and how it might have led him to seek solace in alcohol. When detectives Lawson and Gumbert sat down with Dr. Humston for questioning, they encountered a man who was both defensive and visibly stressed. He insisted that Joanna's surgery was routine and that he had performed similar procedures countless times without issue. Yet, his demeanor fluctuated wildly during the interrogation, swinging from anger to moments of profound silence, as if he was grappling with the weight of the situation. The police were keen to understand every detail of the surgery, from the preparation to the moment things took a tragic turn. They questioned Dr. Humston about his actions and decisions in the operating room, looking for any signs of negligence or malpractice. The interrogation was thorough, leaving no stone unturned, as the detectives aimed to piece together how a procedure meant to bring joy ended in sorrow. As the investigation continued, the story of Joanna Wrangle's death began to capture the attention of the entire city. Local newspapers and TV stations were filled with updates and speculations about the case. This tragedy had struck a chord, reminding everyone of the fragility of life. As the investigation into Joanna Wrangle's death unfolded, the spotlight shifted to Frank H. Wrangle, Joanna's husband, who was 59 years old. Frank was a state senator, well-known and respected in government circles. His marriage to Joanna had united two powerful families, making them a prominent couple in Oklahoma City. Despite his influential position, rumors of financial difficulties and a secret affair began to surface, adding complexity to the case. Frank Wrangle was a man of ambition, dreaming of leaving a lasting legacy in Oklahoma politics. However, his personal life was not as straightforward as his public persona suggested. The police were curious about any motives Frank might have had, considering the whispers about his extramarital relationship and potential financial gains from Joanna's untimely death. When detectives Lawson and Gumbert interviewed Frank, they encountered a man who projected calm and grief over the loss of his wife. He spoke of Joanna with respect and affection, denying any involvement in her death. Frank's demeanor during the interrogation was composed, even as the detectives probed into sensitive areas of his personal and financial life. He insisted that his marriage, despite any rumors, was strong and that he had no reason to wish harm upon Joanna. The detectives were meticulous in their questioning, aware that the dynamics of the Wrangle family could hold clues to the mystery. They examined Frank's alibi, financial records, and his interactions with Joanna leading up to the surgery. The investigation was thorough, leaving no aspect of Frank's life unexplored. The case garnered media attention, and the intrigue of a high-profile investigation, combined with the drama of personal and political scandals, captivated the city. In a time when the world was celebrating the start of a new millennium, the tragic death of Joanna Wrangle added a somber note to the year's beginning. On a brisk January afternoon, a week after the tragic death of Joanna Wrangle, Oklahoma City police made a significant breakthrough in the case. New evidence emerged that would pivot the direction of their investigation. During a meticulous review of the clinic's security footage, detectives spotted something alarming. Angie Ruth Niles, a young nurse who was part of the surgical team, was captured on camera tampering with medical supplies the night before Joanna's procedure. The weather outside mirrored the chill of the revelation as a cold front had swept through Oklahoma City, leaving streets slick with ice. Inside the warm confines of the police station, detectives Lawson and Gumbert watched the footage repeatedly, their seasoned eyes catching the subtle but deliberate actions of Angie. This discovery raised a multitude of questions about her involvement and motives. Armed with this new evidence, the detectives wasted no time. They revisited the clinic, this time focusing on gathering any physical proof that could link the tampered supplies to Joanna's surgery. They collected vials, syringes, and any medications that could have been compromised, ensuring each item was meticulously cataloged for forensic analysis. The police's response to this breakthrough was swift. They knew that this piece of evidence could be the key to unraveling the mystery of Joanna's death. The community, still reeling from the shock of losing one of its most beloved figures, followed the developments closely. Local news outlets were quick to report on the police's findings, adding another layer of intrigue to the high-profile case. In a city that had just celebrated the dawn of the new millennium with optimism and joy, the turn of events in Joanna Wrangle's case served as a stark reminder of the unpredictability of life. As the investigation continued, the police were determined to piece together the puzzle, driven by the evidence that had unexpectedly come to light. With the investigation taking a dramatic turn, the focus shifted to Angie Ruth Niles, a 23-year-old nurse at the clinic and a new, critical suspect in Joanna Wrangle's death. Angie, who had been captured on the clinic's security footage tampering with medical supplies, suddenly found herself at the center of the police's attention. Known as Frank Wrangle's mistress and a key figure in the clinic, Angie's involvement painted a complex picture of personal and professional entanglements. Angie had dreams of moving up in the world, seeing her relationship with Frank as a ticket out of her current life. Her aspirations, however, were now overshadowed by the serious allegations against her. When detectives Lawson and Gumbert brought Angie in for questioning, they encountered a young woman whose demeanor oscillated between nervousness and defiance. Her initial calmness gave way to moments of anger as the interrogation intensified, revealing the pressure she was under. The detectives probed Angie about her actions on the night before the surgery, her relationship with Frank, and her presence during the fatal procedure. They were keen to understand her motives, questioning whether jealousy, ambition, or coercion played a role in her actions. Angie's responses were evasive at first, but as the evidence mounted, the facade began to crack, suggesting that there was more to her involvement than initially appeared. As the news of Angie's interrogation spread, the community was abuzz with speculation. Local media, including stations like KWTV and the Oklahoma Gazette, closely followed the developments, providing updates that kept the city on edge. In a time when Oklahoma City was still basking in the optimism of the new millennium, the case of Joanna Wrangle introduced a narrative filled with intrigue and betrayal, capturing the attention of a community grappling with the unfolding drama. The investigation into Angie Ruth Niles added a new layer of complexity to the case, as detectives worked tirelessly to piece together the events leading to Joanna's tragic death. With each new revelation, the city watched, waiting for justice to be served in a case that had touched the hearts of many. As the investigation into Joanna Wrangle's tragic death deepened, all clues began pointing towards Angie Ruth Niles, the 23-year-old nurse and the mistress of Frank Wrangle. The evidence, particularly the security footage of Angie tampering with the medical supplies, was damning. It became clear that Angie, driven by a mix of personal ambition and influence from Frank, played a pivotal role in the events leading to Joanna's death. Angie's dreams of a future with Frank, away from the shadows of his marriage to Joanna, had morphed into a sinister plot. Under the guise of a routine facelift procedure, Angie manipulated the medical supplies, leading to fatal complications during Joanna's surgery. The police, after gathering all necessary evidence and corroborating the sequence of events, moved to make the arrest. On a cold morning in late January, just as the city was beginning to move past the Y2K frenzy and the excitement of the new millennium, Oklahoma City police arrived at Angie's residence. The arrest was swift, capturing Angie by surprise. She had been planning to flee the country with Frank, with tickets booked for a flight to Colombia. However, the police intercepted before their connecting flight to DFW Airport, preventing their escape. Angie's reaction to her arrest was a mix of disbelief and resignation. She had underestimated the extent of the investigation and the evidence against her. Frank, on the other hand, remained silent, his political career and personal life in ruins. The news of the arrest sent shockwaves through Oklahoma City. Local media, including the Oklahoman and News 9, were quick to cover the story, with reporters stationed outside the courthouse and the police station, capturing every moment of the unfolding drama. The community, still reeling from the loss of Joanna, found some solace in the swift action of the police. Joanna's family, devastated by her loss, expressed a cautious relief at the arrests, hopeful for justice in the wake of their unimaginable grief. The trial of Angie Ruth Niles, the nurse implicated in the tragic death of Joanna Wrangle, became a focal point for Oklahoma City. As the courtroom drama unfolded, the city watched with bated breath, eager for justice in a case that had gripped the community's heart. The prosecution, led by the determined Amy and Clark, a seasoned attorney known for her tough stance on crime, presented a compelling case against Angie. They outlined how her actions, influenced by her relationship with Frank Wrangle, directly led to Joanna's untimely death. On the defense side, John J. Mercian, a skilled lawyer with a reputation for handling high-profile cases, argued for leniency. He painted Angie as a young woman caught in a web of manipulation, her judgment clouded by love and ambition. Despite his efforts, the evidence against Angie was overwhelming, leaving little room for doubt about her involvement. The trial was the talk of the town, with daily updates dominating the news. Stations like Coco 5 and the Oklahoman provided extensive coverage, capturing the emotional testimonies in the tense atmosphere in the courtroom. Joanna's family, present throughout the proceedings, displayed a mix of sorrow and hope, clinging to the belief that justice would be served. When the verdict was finally announced, Angie was found guilty, a decision that sent a wave of relief through the courtroom and beyond. She was sentenced to life in prison, a punishment that Joanna's family felt was just, yet they knew no sentence could fill the void left by Joanna's death. The community, while satisfied with the outcome, reflected on the tragedy, pondering the fragile nature of life and the consequences of our choices. The verdict and sentencing closed the chapter on a case that had captivated Oklahoma City, leaving a lasting impact on all involved. As the news of the sentencing spread, discussions about the case continued, with many hoping it would serve as a cautionary tale about the dangers of envy and deceit. In the months following the trial and sentencing of Angie Ruth Niles for the tragic death of Joanna Wrangle, Oklahoma City began to heal. The high-profile case that had once dominated conversations at every corner of the city slowly receded into the background, leaving behind a community forever changed by the events. Detectives Mickey Larson and Sarah Gumbert, the officers who had tirelessly worked to bring justice to Joanna, continued their service with the Oklahoma City Police Department. The case had left an indelible mark on their careers, reinforcing their commitment to upholding the law and serving their community. They often found themselves reflecting on the complexities of human nature they had witnessed during the investigation. For Joanna's family, life without her was a difficult adjustment. They channeled their grief into continuing her legacy, dedicating themselves to the charitable causes she had been passionate about. The ranch, a place Joanna loved dearly, became a sanctuary for the family, a place where they could feel close to her spirit and keep her memory alive. Angie Ruth Niles, now serving a life sentence, faced the consequences of her actions. The reality of her situation set in as she adjusted to life behind bars, a stark contrast to the future she had once envisioned with Frank Wrangle. Frank, whose involvement in the case had shattered his career and personal life, struggled to come to terms with the fallout. His dreams of political legacy and influence were irreparably damaged. The community of Oklahoma City, while moving forward, would not forget the tragedy that had unfolded among them. Local media outlets, including the Oklahoman and K4TV, occasionally revisited the case, reminding residents of the importance of justice and the resilience of the human spirit in the face of adversity. As life continued in the aftermath of the trial, those touched by the case found ways to move on, each carrying their own lessons and memories of a case that had captivated a city and tested the bonds of its community. The tragic case of Joanna Wrangle serves as a somber reminder of the lengths to which individuals will go to reshape their destinies, often with devastating consequences. Jenny Smith Brosley, a vibrant 32-year-old kindergarten teacher, resided in the peaceful city of Rochester, New York, during the fateful summer of 1993. She was known throughout the community for her cheerful disposition and unwavering kindness. Her dedication to educating young minds and spreading joy was unparalleled. Outside of the classroom, Jenny selflessly volunteered at the local animal shelter, showcasing her love for all creatures great and small. Her compassion and empathy extended to every living being she encountered. Jenny's friends adored her homemade cookies, which had become legendary for their deliciousness. They were often the highlight of community bake sales and gatherings. August of 1993 was a time of excitement and anticipation in Rochester. The city was buzzing with the upcoming Lilac Festival, an annual event that celebrated the blooming of the beautiful lilac flowers. Locals and tourists alike eagerly awaited the festivities, which promised a vibrant atmosphere filled with music, food, and art. Jenny, too, eagerly anticipated the festival. She had planned to take her kindergarten class on a field trip to Highland Park, where the festival was held. The children were excited to explore the colorful gardens and enjoy the various activities planned for them. Unfortunately, the joyous anticipation surrounding the Lilac Festival would soon be overshadowed by a devastating tragedy. On the morning of August 15th, Jenny Smith Brosley was found lifeless in her home, her vibrant spirit extinguished in a brutal act of violence. On a sweltering summer day in August 1993, tragedy befell the peaceful city of Rochester, New York. The community was left in shock and sorrow when the lifeless body of Jenny Smith Brosley, a beloved 32-year-old kindergarten teacher, was discovered in her own home. The discovery of Jenny's body was made by her sister, Sarah Canister, who had stopped by for a visit. Little did Sarah know that she would stumble upon a scene of unimaginable horror. As she entered Jenny's home, a wave of unease washed over her, sensing that something was terribly wrong. The air inside the house was thick with an oppressive stillness, broken only by the distant hum of a fan struggling to combat the relentless heat. The scent of freshly baked cookies, once a comforting aroma synonymous with Jenny's presence, hung in the air, now tainted by an underlying sense of dread. Sarah's heart sank as she reached the living room, where Jenny's lifeless body lay sprawled on the floor. Her once vibrant friend now appeared pale and lifeless, her eyes vacant and devoid of the spark that had always defined her. It was a sight that would forever haunt Sarah's memory. Overwhelmed by grief and shock, Sarah's trembling hands fumbled for the kitchen phone. She dialed the emergency number with trembling fingers, her voice quivering as she relayed the devastating news to the authorities. The sound of sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder with each passing second. As the gravity of the situation began to unfold, news of Jenny's tragic demise spread like wildfire through the close-knit community of Rochester. The local newspaper, the Rochester Times, wasted no time in reporting the shocking incident. Local television news crews descended upon the scene, their cameras capturing the somber atmosphere that now enveloped Jenny's once vibrant neighborhood. As investigators meticulously combed through the evidence, the community remained on edge, grappling with a sense of fear and uncertainty. Who could have committed such a heinous act against a woman known for her unwavering kindness and selflessness? The answers remained elusive, leaving a city in mourning and a void that could never be filled. The Rochester Police Department wasted no time in launching a full-scale investigation into the tragic death of Jenny Smith Brosley, the beloved kindergarten teacher whose life was cut short in a heinous crime. Leading the investigation were husband and wife detective duo Joseph and Lisa Anderson, known for their relentless pursuit of justice. Arriving at the crime scene, located in the quiet suburban neighborhood of Rochester, the detectives were met with a sense of unease. The warm August air hung heavy with anticipation as they approached the modest two-story house where Jenny's lifeless body had been found. With a keen eye for detail, Detective Joseph Anderson meticulously surveyed the exterior of the house. The neatly manicured lawn, adorned with vibrant flowers, stood in stark contrast to the grim reality that awaited them inside. The front door, a sturdy oak structure, showed no signs of forced entry, leaving the detectives puzzled as to how the killer gained access to the home. As they stepped into the house, a wave of silence enveloped them. The air was thick with a sense of foreboding, as if the walls themselves held the secrets to Jenny's untimely demise. The detectives were careful not to disturb any potential evidence as they made their way through the meticulously organized rooms. In the kitchen, Lisa Anderson's sharp eyes were drawn to a batch of freshly baked cookies sitting on the counter. The aroma of chocolate chips filled the room, a bittersweet reminder of the joy Jenny had brought to her students and friends. But beneath the surface of that innocent scene, a sinister truth awaited discovery. With gloved hands, Lisa carefully collected samples of the cookies, suspecting that they held the key to unraveling the mystery. The cookies were sent to the crime lab for analysis, where experts would determine if they contained traces of the lethal poison, cyanide. The meticulous work of the Anderson detectives would prove crucial in uncovering the truth behind Jenny's tragic end. With each passing day, they delved deeper into the web of deceit, determined to bring the perpetrator to justice and provide closure to a grieving community. The initial suspect in the investigation of Jenny Smith Brosley's tragic murder was none other than her estranged husband, Mark H. Smith. At 35 years old, Mark worked as an engineer for the renowned photography company, Kodak, a name that resonated with many in August of 1993. Known for his reserved nature and occasional outbursts of anger, Mark was taken into custody for questioning as the police sought to uncover any possible motive for his wife's untimely demise. As the investigation unfolded, the police delved into the couple's relationship, peeling back the layers of their troubled marriage. Neighbors recounted hearing heated arguments emanating from the Smith-Brosley residence, raising suspicions about the state of their union. Friends and colleagues were interviewed, shedding light on the couple's tumultuous history, which included allegations of infidelity and financial strain. Detectives Joseph and Lisa Anderson, a husband and wife team known for their tenacity and attention to detail, meticulously combed through Mark's personal and professional life. They scoured his workplace, questioning colleagues and superiors, hoping to unearth any clues that could connect him to the crime. The Kodak campus, a bustling hive of activity, was abuzz with speculation as news of the investigation spread like wildfire. Meanwhile, the media circus surrounding the case reached a fever pitch. Local newspapers, such as the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle, dedicated column inches to dissecting the details of the crime. Television news stations, like WHEC-TV, aired dramatic reenactments of the discovery of Jenny's lifeless body, captivating audiences across the city. The community was gripped by fear and intrigue as they anxiously awaited answers to the burning question: who could have committed such a heinous act? As the investigation into Mark H. Smith continued, the police meticulously examined his alibi for the day of the murder. They interviewed co-workers, cross-referenced time cards, and scrutinized surveillance footage from nearby establishments. Despite their best efforts, no concrete evidence linking Mark to the crime could be found. His calm demeanor during questioning, although occasionally punctuated by moments of frustration, further muddled the waters of suspicion. With no smoking gun, the police were forced to widen their net and explore other leads. As the investigation took unexpected twists and turns, the truth seemed to slip further out of their grasp. The clock was ticking, and the pressure to solve the case intensified with each passing day. As the investigation into the tragic murder of Jenny Smith Brosley unfolded, the spotlight turned towards her younger sister, Sarah Canister. Sarah, a stay-at-home mom residing in the quiet city of Rochester, New York, found herself at the center of a web of suspicion. Behind Sarah's seemingly vivacious personality and quick wit, a darker side emerged. The investigators began to uncover a deep-seated jealousy that Sarah harbored towards her accomplished sister. Jenny's success as a beloved kindergarten teacher and her ability to effortlessly spread joy seemed to cast a shadow over Sarah's own life. Sarah's envy was not a well-kept secret among family and friends. She had often expressed her frustration at feeling overshadowed by Jenny's achievements. As the investigators delved deeper into Sarah's past, they discovered a pattern of attention-seeking behavior. Sarah had been known to orchestrate elaborate schemes to gain the recognition she so desperately craved. The police interrogated Sarah, carefully navigating the delicate balance between empathy and suspicion. They sought to unravel the tangled threads of her hidden motives. Sarah's charm and ability to manipulate others made the task all the more challenging. She skillfully evaded direct questions, leaving the investigators with more questions than answers. With each passing day, the web of suspicion around Sarah grew tighter. The investigators tirelessly pursued every lead, meticulously analyzing phone records, financial transactions, and witness testimonies. They sought to piece together the puzzle that would bring justice to Jenny's memory. In a significant breakthrough in the investigation into the tragic murder of beloved kindergarten teacher Jenny Smith Brosley, the police stumbled upon a hidden diary that may have held the key to unraveling the mystery. The shocking discovery of this diary, belonging to Jenny's younger sister, Sarah Canister, shed new light on the case and exposed a web of envy and resentment. On a cloudy day in late August 1993, while combing through Sarah's belongings, the investigators stumbled upon a dusty old diary tucked away in a forgotten corner of her closet. As they leafed through its pages, they were confronted with a chilling account of Sarah's deep-seated jealousy towards her sister. The diary revealed Sarah's feelings of being overshadowed by Jenny's achievements and her desperate longing for attention. The diary entries painted a vivid picture of Sarah's inner turmoil. She expressed her envy towards Jenny's popularity, her success as a teacher, and her renowned homemade cookies. Sarah's words dripped with bitterness and resentment, revealing a side of her that had remained hidden from those closest to her. The investigators were taken aback by the depth of Sarah's emotions and the lengths she was willing to go to gain the spotlight. They meticulously analyzed the diary, scrutinizing every word for clues that could link Sarah to Jenny's untimely demise. The entries hinted at a brewing storm of anger and frustration, creating a motive that the investigators had been desperately searching for. With this newfound evidence, the investigators were determined to delve deeper into Sarah's psyche, seeking to understand the extent of her resentment and whether it had driven her to commit such a heinous act. They planned to interview friends and acquaintances, hoping to uncover any additional information that could corroborate the diary's revelations. The diary had become a crucial piece in the puzzle, providing a glimpse into the mind of a potential killer. The investigators were now faced with the daunting task of connecting the dots and bringing justice to Jenny's grieving family. In the midst of the investigation into the tragic murder of Jenny Smith Brosley, a new suspect emerged from the shadows. Dr. Edward Bleach, a well-respected family physician, found himself under the scrutinizing gaze of law enforcement. The police, driven by an insatiable thirst for justice, sought to uncover the truth behind this heinous crime. Dr. Bleach, known for his medical expertise and dedication to his profession, had long been a pillar of the community. However, as the detectives delved deeper into his past, a different side of the doctor began to emerge. It was discovered that the Smith family, whom he had treated in the past, had sued Dr. Bleach for malpractice, alleging that his negligence had resulted in the blinding of several family members. This lawsuit had left a deep-seated grudge within the doctor's heart, a smoldering fire of resentment that could potentially drive him to commit a horrific act. As the investigators questioned Dr. Bleach, they unearthed a trove of unsettling details. The doctor's alibi for the day of Jenny's murder was flimsy at best, with no concrete evidence to support his claims. Furthermore, witnesses reported seeing him in the vicinity of Jenny's residence on that fateful day. The police painstakingly cross-referenced phone records, credit card statements, and surveillance footage, building a compelling case against the doctor. To further complicate matters, a series of anonymous letters had been sent to local news outlets, hinting at Dr. Bleach's involvement in the crime. These letters, postmarked from various cities across the country, contained chilling details that only someone intimately familiar with the case could know. The police, in collaboration with the FBI, analyzed the handwriting and linguistic patterns of the letters, hoping to find a clue that would lead them closer to the truth. As the investigation unfolded, the media circus surrounding the case intensified. The airwaves crackled with discussions on talk radio shows, as armchair detectives offered their own theories and opinions. The city of Rochester, usually known for its serene beauty and picturesque landscapes, was now gripped by a sense of unease and fear. As the summer of 1993 drew to a close, the investigation into the murder of Jenny Smith Brosley took an unexpected turn. The police, armed with mounting evidence and a growing sense of urgency, were closing in on their suspect. But would Dr. Edward Bleach's calm demeanor crack under the weight of their relentless pursuit? Only time would tell. After an exhaustive investigation, law enforcement officials finally cracked the case surrounding the tragic murder of beloved kindergarten teacher Jenny Smith Brosley. The shocking revelation left the community of Rochester, New York, in a state of disbelief and mourning. The perpetrator of this heinous crime was identified as none other than Jenny's own sister, Sarah Canister. The motive behind this unimaginable act appeared to be a toxic combination of sexual jealousy and deep-rooted resentment towards her successful sibling. As the investigation unfolded, detectives stumbled upon a hidden diary belonging to Sarah. This diary, filled with disturbing entries, detailed her envy and bitterness towards Jenny's accomplishments. It provided a chilling glimpse into Sarah's troubled psyche and shed light on her sinister intentions. The plot thickened when evidence emerged that Sarah had seduced Jenny's estranged husband, Mark H. Smith, in an attempt to use her sexuality to manipulate him into aiding her in the murder. Mark, vulnerable and susceptible to Sarah's advances, became an unwitting pawn in this twisted game of deceit and betrayal. The police, armed with irrefutable evidence, swiftly apprehended Sarah. Her arrest sent shockwaves through the community as the true extent of her malevolence was laid bare for all to see. The once vibrant and vivacious Sarah had been harboring a dark secret, hidden beneath a facade of charm and wit. The revelation of Sarah's guilt left the victim's family shattered. Struggling to come to terms with the shocking betrayal, friends and loved ones of Jenny Smith Brosley have expressed their disbelief, grappling with the fact that someone so close to her could be capable of such a heinous act. The trial that followed the shocking revelation of Sarah Canister as Jenny Smith Brosley's murderer was filled with intense emotions and gripping courtroom drama. The trial took place in the historic Monroe County Courthouse, a grand building that had witnessed countless legal battles over the years. The courtroom was packed with reporters from local newspapers such as the Democrat and Chronicle, as well as television crews from stations like WROC-TV. The eyes of the nation were on Rochester as this high-profile case unfolded. District Attorney Emily Sullivan, a seasoned prosecutor known for her tenacity's case, was built on a mountain of evidence.
including the damning diary entries found in Sarah's possession. These entries, written in Sarah's own hand, revealed her deep-seated jealousy and resentment towards her sister. The jury listened intently as the prosecution meticulously dissected each entry, painting a vivid picture of Sarah's motive and her calculated plan to eliminate her sister. To counter the prosecution's case, Sarah's defense attorney, Jacqueline Humbert, employed a range of tactics. Humbert called into question the reliability of the diary entries, arguing that they could have been fabricated or misinterpreted. She also attempted to cast doubt on the credibility of the witnesses, highlighting inconsistencies in their testimonies. After days of deliberation, the jury reached a unanimous verdict. Sarah Canister was found guilty of first-degree murder. The courtroom erupted in a mix of relief and sorrow. The victim's family, though relieved that justice had been served, could not escape the pain of their loss. Sarah, now convicted of this heinous crime, was led away in handcuffs, her face a mask of disbelief. The sentencing phase of the trial followed shortly after. In the end, the judge delivered his sentence: life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. The courtroom fell silent as the weight of the sentence sank in. Sarah, now condemned to spend the rest of her days behind bars, was led away, her fate sealed. As the trial concluded, the impact of this tragic case reverberated through the lives of the victims' friends and family. They were left to grapple with the shocking betrayal and the loss of a beloved sister and friend. The trial also left a lasting impression on the community, reminding them of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of even the most seemingly ordinary lives. In the aftermath of the highly publicized trial that captivated the nation, the lives of all those involved took divergent paths. Mark H. Smith, the grief-stricken widower, sought solace in therapy and support groups, desperately trying to navigate the treacherous journey of healing. Haunted by guilt and plagued by the memories of his beloved wife, Mark found comfort in the warm embrace of his family and friends. Meanwhile, Sarah Canister, the convicted murderer, began her life sentence in a maximum security prison. Stripped of her freedom and facing the harsh reality of her actions, Sarah was left to confront the consequences of her heinous crime. Behind bars, she faced a long and arduous road towards redemption, with little hope of ever regaining the trust of those she had betrayed. The dedicated police investigators, Joseph and Lisa Anderson, continued their tireless pursuit of justice in other cases. Driven by a deep sense of duty and a burning desire to protect their community, they tirelessly worked to bring closure to other victims and their families. Their commitment to upholding the law and ensuring the safety of their fellow citizens remained unwavering. August of 1993 will forever be etched in the collective memory of the community as they grappled with the shocking betrayal and the profound impact it had on their lives. The trial had dominated headlines, capturing the attention of the nation and leaving an indelible mark on the city of Rochester. As we conclude this episode of True Crime Case Files, we are reminded of the darkness that can lurk behind closed doors. The tragic tale of Jenny Smith Brosley serves as a cautionary reminder of the depths to which jealousy and resentment can drive a person. Through the tireless efforts of law enforcement and the resilience of the victim's loved ones, justice was ultimately served. Jennifer Lee Trilogy, a 34-year-old resident of Mesa, Arizona, was a dedicated and ambitious woman. In July of 2008, Jennifer's life seemed to be on track for success. She held the position of chief telemarketer at Credit Cards for Kids, an operation said to be, quote, committed to helping children build a secure financial future. Jennifer's unwavering dedication to her job made her a respected figure within the organization. Outside of work, Jennifer was an active member of her community. She volunteered at the local homeless shelter, organizing food drives and fundraising events. Her selflessness and genuine care for others made her a beloved figure in Mesa. Jennifer's commitment to her community was even recognized by the local newspaper, the Mesa Tribune, which featured her in an article highlighting her efforts to make a positive impact. Beyond her professional and charitable life, Jennifer's warm-hearted nature extended to her family and friends. She cherished every moment spent with her loved ones, making sure to create lasting memories. Her positive outlook on life and determination to make a difference in the world made her a beacon of hope for those who knew her.
But little did Jennifer know that her seemingly perfect life was about to take a dark and unexpected turn. Jennifer's story takes an unexpected turn when she becomes suspicious of her husband's involvement in a secretive gym group. Curiosity gets the better of her, and she embarks on a journey to uncover the truth. Little did she know that this decision would lead her down a path filled with danger and intrigue. As we delve deeper into this case, we will explore the details surrounding Jennifer's life, her aspirations, and the events that transpired in the blisteringly hot Arizonan summer of 2008. Stay tuned for the shocking revelations that lie ahead. On a scorching summer day in July 2008, tragedy struck the peaceful suburban neighborhood of Mesa, Arizona. Jennifer Lee Trilogy, a 34-year-old woman known for her dedication and warm-hearted nature, met a gruesome and untimely end within the walls of her own home. The details of this heinous crime sent shockwaves through the community, leaving residents fearful and on edge. It was Jennifer's close friend, Stacy Brewer, who made the horrifying discovery. As she entered Jennifer's home that day, expecting to find her vibrant and full of life, she was instead met with a scene of unimaginable horror. Jennifer lay lifeless on the floor, her body bearing the brutal marks of over 30 stab wounds inflicted with a steak knife. The sheer violence and cruelty of the act sent shivers down Stacy's spine, leaving her overwhelmed with shock and disbelief. The authorities were immediately contacted, and a sense of urgency filled the air. As news of Jennifer's tragic fate spread, the community rallied together in grief and solidarity. Vigils were held, and heartfelt tributes poured in from friends, family, and even strangers who had been touched by Jennifer's kindness. The media, always hungry for sensational stories, descended upon Mesa, eager to uncover every detail and bring the truth to light. As the days turned into weeks, the weight of the unsolved crime hung heavy over the neighborhood. Fear and suspicion lingered in the air, casting a shadow over once trusting relationships. The community yearned for closure, for justice to be served, and for the memory of Jennifer Lee Trilogy to be honored. The authorities wasted no time in responding to the distressing call made by Stacy Brewer that came in on that fateful July day in 2008. A team of dedicated police officers swiftly arrived at the scene, ready to unravel the mystery surrounding Jennifer Lee Trilogy's brutal murder. Led by Detective Oliver Sequan, a seasoned investigator with a reputation for his tenacity and attention to detail, the police meticulously combed through every inch of the crime scene. The once tranquil home in the suburban neighborhood of Mesa, Arizona, now bore the chilling marks of a heinous crime. As Detective Kwan surveyed the scene, his eyes were immediately drawn to the bloodstains that marred the once pristine surroundings. The crimson trails seemed to tell a haunting story of the violence that had unfolded within her house. The once pristine surroundings were now stained with Jennifer's blood, a grim reminder of the brutal act that had taken place. The murder weapon, a steak knife from the kitchen, lay discarded nearby, serving as a chilling testament to the violence inflicted upon her. Detective Thompson and his team employed a variety of tools and methods to gather evidence. They carefully collected fingerprints from various surfaces, dusted for DNA, and meticulously photographed the scene from every angle. The detectives also interviewed neighbors, hoping to gather any information that could lead them to the perpetrator. As the investigation progressed, the media began to take notice. Local news outlets, such as the Mesa Tribune and Channel 12 News, reported on the shocking murder that had rocked the community. The police delved into Jennifer's personal life, discovering that Jennifer had recently become suspicious of her husband's gym group, a tight-knit community known as Fit Life Warriors. The group, led by charismatic lifestyle guru Bert Hensley Brecht, had gained a reputation for their intense workouts and exclusive membership. As the summer of 2008 unfolded, the residents of Mesa anxiously awaited justice for Jennifer Lee Trilogy. The pressure mounted on the police from people from all walks of life to solve the crime and bring closure to Jennifer's grieving loved ones. Devon Trilogy, a 38-year-old man with a charming personality, found himself at the center of a chilling crime that left a quiet suburban neighborhood in Mesa, Arizona in shock. As the investigation into the murder of his wife, Jennifer Lee Trilogy, unfolded, a dark secret began to emerge, threatening to unravel the lives of those involved. The police, determined to uncover the truth,
focused their attention on Devon as the prime suspect. With his charismatic demeanor and ability to charm those around him, he had managed to maintain a facade of love and affection. However, beneath this seemingly loving exterior, a sinister side lay hidden. During the intense interrogation, Devon's emotions fluctuated between anger and an unsettling calmness. The detectives, armed with their questions and a desire for justice, probed into his possible motives. They delved into his personal life, searching for any signs of discontent or animosity within the marriage. As the investigation progressed, the police pieced together the events leading up to that fateful day in July 2008. They discovered that Jennifer had recently uncovered a secret about her husband's gym group, a group that Devon was deeply involved in. Whispers of illegal activities and connections to organized crime began to circulate within the investigation. The authorities meticulously combed through the evidence, leaving no stone unturned. They analyzed phone records, financial transactions, and witness statements, hoping to find a solid link to the crime. The murder weapon, a steak knife from the kitchen, was carefully examined for fingerprints and DNA, providing crucial clues that would help unravel the truth. The weight of the investigation bore down on Devon, his every move scrutinized by both the police and the public. The once charming man now faced a storm of suspicion and doubt. Would the evidence be enough to bring justice for Jennifer's untimely demise? Stacy Brewer, a 36-year-old woman from Mesa, Arizona, found herself under the watchful eye of the authorities as a potential suspect in the tragic murder of her close friend, Jennifer Lee Trilogy. Stacy, known for her outgoing personality and love for adventure, was an avid gym goer and enjoyed exploring the great outdoors of Arizona. In July of 2008, when the murder took place, Stacy's life took an unexpected turn as she became entangled in a web of suspicion and scrutiny. As a Jungian dream analyst, Stacy prided herself on her ability to interpret dreams and uncover hidden meanings. She often shared her insights with friends and clients, helping them navigate the complexities of their subconscious minds. She also relied heavily on her spirit animal, an ostrich named Angela Reese Crosswind. But behind her fanciful and carefree facade, jealousy brewed within her towards Jennifer, who seemed to have it all: a successful career, a loving husband, and a seemingly perfect life. The police interrogated Stacy relentlessly, leaving no stone unturned in their pursuit of the truth. They probed into her possible motives, scrutinizing her every word and reaction. The intensity of the investigation took a toll on Stacy, evoking a range of emotions from anger to a desperate calmness. During the interrogation, Stacy's mind raced with memories of her friendship with Jennifer. They had shared countless moments together, from their early morning workouts at the local gym to exploring the beautiful landscapes of Arizona. Stacy couldn't help but feel a pang of envy whenever Jennifer's achievements were celebrated, as if her own accomplishments paled in comparison. Stacy's life was turned upside down as she became the subject of public scrutiny. Her every move was dissected and analyzed by armchair detectives and gossip-hungry journalists. The weight of suspicion bore down on her, threatening to crush her spirit and tarnish her reputation. In a shocking turn of events, the investigation into the tragic murder of Jennifer Lee Trilogy took an unexpected twist. The once respected workplace of Jennifer, Credit Cards for Kids, was revealed to be a deceitful company operating as a pyramid scheme, preying on innocent and vulnerable children. This revelation added a new layer of intrigue and possible motive to the already twisted tale of murder and deceit. Credit Cards for Kids, a seemingly noble organization, purported to provide financial education for children. However, behind the facade of innocence, it was discovered that the company engaged in predatory practices, enticing children to obtain credit cards with exorbitant interest rates. These poor and vulnerable children were then subjected to relentless harassment as they struggled to pay off the staggering 45% interest rate imposed by the company. The revelation of this sinister scheme sent shockwaves through the community as parents and authorities grappled with the realization that such an exploitative operation had been operating right under their noses. The public demanded justice for the innocent victims ensnared in this web of deceit. As the investigation into Jennifer Lee Trilogy's murder deepened, detectives began to explore the possible connection between her untimely demise and the fraudulent activities of Credit Cards for Kids. The The police meticulously examined financial records, seeking any potential links between Jennifer and the company's downfall. They interviewed former employees, desperate to uncover any clues that could shed light on the motive behind her brutal slaying. Investigators speculated that Jennifer, being a dedicated and ambitious woman, may have stumbled upon the dark secrets of credit cards for kids. Perhaps she had uncovered evidence of the company's illegal activities, putting her in grave danger. This theory raised questions about who stood to benefit from silencing her permanently. As the investigation continued, the police intensified their efforts to dismantle the fraudulent empire of credit cards for kids. They collaborated with federal agencies, including the Federal Trade Commission and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, to bring the perpetrators to justice and protect the innocent victims ensnared in this heartless scheme. As the investigation into Jennifer Lee Trilogy's tragic murder unfolded, another key figure emerged: Martin O'Hurley, her closest friend and co-worker at Credit Cards for Kids. At just 24 years old, Martin was known for his quick thinking and unwavering loyalty towards Jennifer. However, beneath his friendly demeanor, a troubled past lurked, threatening to expose a side of him that no one could have anticipated. On the surface, Martin appeared to be an ordinary young man, dedicated to his work and always ready with a joke to lighten the mood. But as the police delved deeper into his life, they discovered a series of unsettling incidents that hinted at a darker side. Born and raised in Mesa, Arizona, Martin grew up in a modest neighborhood, surrounded by the desert landscape that defined the region. His childhood was marked by hardship, as his parents struggled to make ends meet. Despite the challenges, Martin excelled academically, earning a scholarship to attend Mesa High School. It was during his time at Mesa High that Martin's troubles began to surface. He fell in with a group of rebellious classmates, known locally as the Desert Punks. This tight-knit crew, notorious for their wild parties and reckless behavior, quickly became Martin's new social circle. Their influence led him down a path of minor criminal activity, including vandalism and petty theft. As the questioning intensified, it was revealed that Martin had been moonlighting as a prostitute, offering his services to male clients in the Mesa area. This revelation sent shockwaves through the investigation, painting a picture of a man leading a double life. One of Martin's frequent customers turned out to be none other than Devon Trilogy, Jennifer's husband. The police were astounded by this connection, as it added another layer of complexity to the already twisted tale of murder and deceit. It raised questions about the dynamics between Martin, Jennifer, and Devon, and whether this illicit relationship played a role in Jennifer's untimely demise. The truth finally emerged, revealing Devon Trilogy as the cold-blooded murderer. Devon, age 38, had been leading a double life, hiding his involvement with a secret gym group called Fit Life Warriors. This group, unbeknownst to the community, was exclusively for men and served as a male-only brothel/gay swingers club that would procure handsome male lovers for their members. This revelation shed new light on Devon's motive for the murder and exposed the dark underbelly of the seemingly idyllic suburban community in Mesa, Arizona. The police, through diligent investigation, pieced together the evidence that linked Devon to Fit Life Warriors. They uncovered explicit messages exchanged between Devon and other members of the group, revealing a web of deceit and betrayal. It became apparent that Devon's involvement with Fit Life Warriors had become a source of conflict within his marriage to Jennifer. The discovery of Devon's secret life and his connection to Fit Life Warriors sent shockwaves through the community. Residents were left questioning the true nature of the seemingly perfect lives that surrounded them. As the police delved deeper into the connection between Devon and Fit Life Warriors, they uncovered a network of notable individuals who were part of this secret club. Interviews with club members revealed a tight-knit sex community that operated under a code of secrecy. The police worked tirelessly to gather information from these individuals, hoping to unravel the full extent of Devon's involvement and the motive behind Jennifer's murder. The arrest of Devon Trilogy sent shockwaves through the community as the reality of a heinous crime committed in their midst became all too real. The community, still reeling from the revelations surrounding Fit Life Warriors, came together to support Jennifer's family and honor her memory. The impact of this tragic event would forever leave its mark on Mesa, Arizona, serving as a reminder that darkness can lurk behind even the most seemingly idyllic facades. The trial that followed Jennifer Lee Trilogy's tragic murder in July 2008 brought the community together as they sought justice for the beloved woman whose life was brutally cut short. The courtroom was filled with tension and raw emotions as the prosecution and defense presented their cases, each vying to sway the jury's decision. The prosecution, led by determined prosecutor Angela Koss, known for her track record of successful convictions, meticulously laid out the evidence against the prime suspect, Devon Trilogy. They presented the jury with a compelling argument, weaving together a narrative that painted Devon as a man driven by secrets and betrayal. The prosecution called upon witnesses who testified to Devon's volatile temper and his connection to the murder weapon, a steak knife found in the Trilogy household. The defense, represented by Cole Robbie, a skilled attorney renowned for his ability to cast doubt on the prosecution's claims, sought to challenge the evidence presented. They questioned the reliability of the witnesses, highlighting inconsistencies in their testimonies. The defense argued that there was no concrete proof linking Devon to the crime and urged the jury to consider alternative theories. Throughout the trial, Jennifer's grieving family sat in the courtroom, their eyes fixed on the proceedings. They clung to the hope that justice would be served for their beloved daughter, sister, and friend. Friends and supporters of Jennifer filled the gallery, their presence a testament to the impact she had on their lives. As the trial progressed, the media frenzy surrounding the case intensified. Local newspapers, such as the Mesa Tribune, dedicated coverage to the trial, providing daily updates on the proceedings. Television news stations, including Channel 8 News, broadcasted reports from outside the courthouse, capturing the public's attention. After days of deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. The courtroom fell silent as the jury foreperson stood and announced that Devon Trilogy was found guilty of first-degree murder. The room erupted with a mix of relief and sorrow. As Jennifer's family and friends processed the weight of the decision, Devon was subsequently sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The sentencing brought a sense of closure for Jennifer's loved ones, knowing that the person responsible for her untimely death would be held accountable. The impact of the verdict reverberated through the community, forever altering the lives of those involved. Jennifer's memory lives on, not only in the hearts of her family and friends, but also in the collective consciousness of Mesa, Arizona. In the wake of the trial, the lives of those involved took a dramatic turn. Martin O'Hurley, Jennifer's best friend and co-worker, found solace in the support of his friends and family. He enrolled in a local community college, determined to pursue a degree in criminal justice. Inspired by the tireless efforts of the detectives who worked on Jennifer's case, Martin aspired to become a detective himself one day. Stacy Brewer, Jennifer's close friend, sought refuge in the healing power of nature. She embarked on a solo hiking trip through the picturesque landscapes of Sedona, Arizona. The breathtaking red rock formations and serene desert vistas provided solace and a sense of peace amidst the chaos that had enveloped her life. Stacy documented her journey on her blog, Wandering Spirit, where she shared her experiences and reflections with her growing community of followers. Devon Trilogy, the cold-blooded murderer, was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The trial had exposed the dark underbelly of the seemingly idyllic suburban community, leaving a lasting impact on its residents. The media frenzy surrounding the case had subsided, but the scars remained. As time passed, the wounds began to heal, but the memory of Jennifer and the events surrounding her tragic death remained etched in the collective consciousness of the community. The impact of the case had forever altered the lives of those involved, serving as a somber reminder of the fragility of life and the importance of justice. As we conclude this episode of True Crime Case Files, we are reminded of the chilling events that unfolded in Mesa, Arizona in July 2008. Jennifer Lee Trilogy's life was tragically cut short, exposing a web of secrets, deceit, and betrayal. This story serves as a haunting reminder that darkness can lurk within the seemingly ordinary, and that the pursuit of truth can unveil the most unsettling realities. Join us next time as we delve into another captivating true crime case.